According to the Brookings Institution's analysis of carbon tax timing, high fossil fuel prices are the worst time to impose a carbon tax, but are the best time to build the underlying market architecture. And that infrastructure is rapidly being built and deployed by the biggest multinational corporations, governments and states, and the United Nations, especially in the past few months. Announced at Davos in January 2026, the carbon market platform EcoGuard automates the full carbon credit lifecycle. The carbon market is expected to reach $5 trillion by 2035. This infrastructure is designed to be invisible and ubiquitous. The goal is for every transaction, settlement, and data point to be managed behind the scenes so that the user is not aware of it. Also at Davos last January, Palantir CEO Alex Karp said that AI will destroy humanity's jobs and described a future in which high school students train for factory jobs, no one goes to college or immigrates, and black box software run by major government contractors determines whether society is being run properly. For the more compliant, the so-called 15-minute city, smart city, and freedom city models are being built to incorporate digital ID, carbon tracking, and population monitoring. Where you live, how far you travel, and what your carbon footprint is are already being tracked in multiple countries and several U.S. cities. For the non-compliant, the prison business is booming. Federal and state governments have announced over $2 billion in new prison construction in the past year alone, and the private sector dwarfs that. ICE's detention budget quadrupled when the One Big Beautiful Bill was signed into law in July 2025, adding nearly $11.25 billion to their coffers every year through 2029. An ICE director said he wanted a detention center that runs like Prime, but for human beings. And in order to keep the compliant managed and the non-compliant contained, we have Palantir, which received a no-bid contract from the USDA to track federal employees' return to office compliance with real-time analysis and continuous compliance monitoring. The contract also includes the One Farmer, One File initiative, which will give Palantir a unified database of the land holdings, conservation practices, insurance claims, and financial data of every farmer who interacts with the USDA. This is the same Palantir that is proudly assisting the United States and Israel in targeting operations against civilians across the Middle East. Palantir CEO Alex Karp published The Technological Republic in February 2025. It became an instant New York Times #1 bestseller and has been described as the AI manifesto inspiring Keir Starmer's government by the Times of London. Karp's central argument is that the state must merge its power with big tech, as it did during the Manhattan Project, to save Western civilization. The original 1930s technocracy movement, of which Elon Musk's grandfather was a member, declared that technocracy stands ready with a plan to salvage American civilization if and when democracy can no longer cope with the inherent disruptive forces. Palantir is currently deployed by the Department of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, the FDA, the CDC, and the NIH, and is in discussions with the IRS and the Social Security Administration. The Bank for International Settlements has been quietly publishing frameworks for CBDC interoperability that would allow all national digital currencies to communicate with each other under a unified settlement layer. Sam Altman's WorldCoin project is building a worldwide biometric identity system with the stated goal of distinguishing humans from AI agents at scale. It already operates in dozens of countries. The new system is falling together in pieces: a digital ID to fight fraud, a stablecoin for faster payments, carbon tracking for transparency, and AI for government efficiency. Our driver's license becomes our digital wallets, and our level of compliance can determine how much access we have to them. There appears to be very little pushback, and soon it may seem to be the only option available to avoid total collapse. Greg Reese reporting.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Diamond Report Live. Hope you guys are doing well out there. It is 9:06 p.m. on April 5th, 2026. Some have called it Easter. So we'll go with that, even though technically Resurrection Day was sundown over the Sabbath, which was probably at some point Saturday sometime. No one really knows for sure. But anyways, yes, happy Easter to those who celebrate that particular named holiday, and happy Resurrection Day to all of the fellow believers out there. And I'm glad you're here. So we have a special show tonight, and I thought we would start with a Greg Reese report like normal, just because I felt like that one that just came out this week was pretty apropos. It seemed like it kind of fit with what we were talking about, or we're going to be talking about tonight. And the special show tonight is our very special guest, Mr. Russ Tanner, is here with us. So I want you to welcome him, and feel free to make some comments in chat, questions if you guys have any, and we will address those. We didn't really decide ahead of time if we're going to address them all at one time near the end, or perhaps as we go. It just depends on how many questions come in, if any, or just comments. So anyway, I wanted to bring on, seriously, one of the smartest guys I know, and a fellow brother in Christ. So hello and welcome to Mr. Russ Tanner. Russ,
hey,
how you
Doug.
doing? Yeah.
Hey, great, Doug. It's great to be here. I'm so glad you have me on, and I appreciate all that you do. So great to see you.
Thank you. Yes, great to see you. So for those out there who may not be familiar with who you are, let's start with a little background, maybe just in your words, a short bio, or just whatever you want to mention as far as what you're known for, the things you're interested in. And I'll just mention this up front. I've known Russ for I think 2014 is when I first met you over the phone, and you were working with Dane Wigington as the webmaster, I believe, at that time for GeoWatch, geoengineeringwatch.org, a website we mention oftentimes on this show. And I came into the fold, and we started talking and realized pretty quickly that we're both believers, and I think that really helped solidify our friendship. And then we got connected through another good friend of ours, Mr. Richard Sachs, who has passed away as of last fall, and he was, of course, the guy that was behind Lost Arch Radio. And Russ and Richard were good friends as well, and they knew each other for a very long time, I think, and good buddies. So anyway, why don't you take the reins here for just a little bit and let us know, Russ, about what you are into and what you are, as far as what your research has been involved with, geoengineering, and anything else you want to mention.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had a long history of being involved in natural health. I got involved in natural health because I was poisoned with my amalgam dental fillings, and I became very sick between 1995 and 2000. And I didn't think I was going to live, to be honest with you. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I finally found out what it was. And within 3 weeks, had my amalgam fillings taken out and had 17 physical symptoms disappear. 85% were gone in 24 hours. And these are things I had had for 5 years that I couldn't get rid of. I had no idea what was going on. And the remaining 15% were gone in the next 3 months. Also emotional symptoms, depression and hyperactivity and inability to focus and comprehend what I was reading. So I was introduced that way to the woes of mercury toxicity, and I rapidly began to research it and learned that it is probably the most prolific toxin in the world today, because our government in America, in the United States, has condoned its use and supported its use and lied and cheated and stealed to make sure that as many people got exposed as possible. My education about what I learned about government and how it works and the corruption and the conspiracies that are going on go back to the early 80s. I got involved with a political party, not one of the two big ones, but in Tampa, Florida, where I grew up, and north of Tampa is where I grew up, but got involved and met people who actually knew presidents, people who knew Carter and Ford, and these were people who started telling us things in our group that were mind-boggling, because I just thought everything was good and the news was real, and in that 1 year I absolutely was blown away. And being the researcher type, I started researching real hard, found out that all the things these people were telling me was true. I went to law libraries and did research and found out about IRS law and the Uniform Commercial Code and how this all works, and was blown away at how everything is so very different than we thought. Well, then I had 4.5 years of blissful health between between July of 2000, when my fillings were taken out, and November of 2025, when we started being sprayed with chemtrails in the area I lived, which was Jamestown, New York. And they started seeing light lines across the sky and all these low-flying jets. In Jamestown, you never see jets in the sky because there's no airport of any size. There's a small one in Jamestown, but it can't handle the jets of this size.
Wait, I think you said 2025. What year would that be?
2005. Sorry,
2005. Okay,
2005.
Okay.
Yeah, July 2005. Yeah, so July of 2000, I had my fillings out and had about 4.5 years of amazing health, and then November 2005, we were hit with chemtrails in the town where you'd never see jets in the sky. 737s, 40s, these are all 767s, DC-9s. These are all military tankers. Were flying so low. After 20 to 40 minutes, I would taste the metal in the air so strong. In fact, the first day this happened, I had 3 employees in my business. They all worked out of my home. I had to cancel our employee meeting. We had a meeting at the end of each day, and I said, I can't make it. I feel like I have amalgam fillings in my mouth. I'm like, all my symptoms have rapidly come back. All these symptoms and the racing thoughts and the heartbeat and the inflammation and my head would heat up. And anyway, so long story, not as long as I want. That's how I was introduced to the aerial spraying that is currently continuing to take place. As somebody who is hypersensitive and can smell and taste it, I'm one of the very small percentage. I have a very hypersensitive sense of taste and smell. So I've tracked this ever since 2005, written articles, logged, did 3 continuous years of time lapse, and 5 continuous years of logging every plume that hit us throughout every day for 5 years with a 2-week break because I had a heart attack that was caused by the spraying, by the way. And so, there's the website, Global Skywatch. So it's been, that's been my journey, and it's been a real rough ride because the chemicals are really tearing us up and doing a lot of damage to our bodies. So it's a struggle. So that's what brought me to this point, Doug.
Okay. Yeah. And then what about, so the smelling and the tasting of these toxins is pretty amazing to me. I don't think I know anyone else who is able to do that. And yet you're saying you've run into other people in your travels across Facebook and other places that have the same issue?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've run into about between 100 and 200 people, I'd say, on Facebook. I founded a group called Global Skywatch Facebook group years ago, probably 2010 or something. I don't remember when we started. But by 2021, we had accrued 192,600 members. It was a huge, vibrant group.
Yeah.
It was the place to come for news. People would say, I love this group. This is where I get my information. Well, in February 1st, 2021, Facebook shut the group down. And we've never been able to just shut it down. In fact, I can still go to it. Other people can't see it. I can go to it and I see the last post that was ever made. But they shut it down because it didn't follow community standards. In other words, we were talking about things that the powers that be didn't want the people to know about.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, Doug, because Facebook is a self-regulating platform. If you don't want to be in a group and see the stuff they're posting there, you don't have to be in the group. Just don't join it. But they joined it because they wanted the content. Furthermore, if you have somebody on Facebook that is posting stuff you don't like, you simply block them. Just click the little button and block them. So it's a self-regulating group, but it's just amazing that that they can just completely censor things like that. So that having a group that big, I got to meet people from all over the world, learned about the observations, China, Russia, Ukraine, the Middle East, other Asians, Singapore, met people all over. And so I met a number of people who smell and taste it. I've had phone conversations with them, and they go through the exact same things that I do. They see the exact same patterns. They have the same symptoms. So it's very interesting to have been able to meet other people with the same situation.
Yeah, no kidding. And there was a question in chat just mentioning Orbis Vitae, which is your other website, other company, I guess, right?
Orbis Vitae, you've got it on the screen there. I think Orbis Vitae means Circle of Life. That's another website I started years ago. Global Skywatch is dedicated primarily for the spraying, the geoengineering operations. I don't normally call it geoengineering because that and it's fine if you do. It's no big deal that if anybody who does. It's just that kind of connotates a positive message. It's like we're geoengineering to fix something, but that's not really what they're doing. You don't spray poisons all over the population to fix them. Orbis Vitae is for everything, every other subject. There's thousands of banned YouTube videos and stuff on there that you can watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was two different sites. Yeah, and then chemtrails is that's the term that people use, but then you have the crowd, the people like Dane and others who say, well, you can't really use chemtrails because if new people are going to Google that, then they're just going to get conspiracy theories and all that. But it really is that's the better description as to what it is, the chemical spraying that's happening versus it is an ongoing issue as far as globally what they're doing, and yet there is a lot of randomness involved as well, and it's making people's lives miserable, as we know, people like yourself.
Yeah.
So,
well, the thing is, Doug, that's interesting is being that I can smell and taste it, I have seen the migration of patterns over the years. And up until the last 5 to 7 years, it was every 2 hours. I mean, the patterns were absolutely predictable. And then they would switch the patterns up every 3 to 6 months. They would still have 2-hour intervals, but they would add a new type or they'd change a type because there are different types. A lot of people think of this as very, very binary. They're spraying or they're not spraying. Oh, no, it's much more complicated. I've written articles. In fact, maybe I'll put one up on the screen here that actually show about the 20 different types that have different odors, different tastes, and it cause different symptom sets that I've encountered over the years, and they would migrate through them. They would introduce a new type, and then they'd phase out an older type, introduce a new type, phase out, and the new types were always worse than the older types. And so it's much more complicated than a lot of people think. Some of it's associated with weather patterns, and some of it has nothing to do with weather patterns. So there's a lot to this, and it's just a massive information that we've accrued over the years.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, if you want to pull that up, I was looking for it on Global Skywatch. I didn't really see it on the homepage, but I'm sure it's there somewhere. Just not seeing it right offhand. But yeah, I knew you went through and meticulously, gave it all, names and descriptions as to what they are and stuff. But for most of us out there, we can't really even fathom what it's like to smell and to be able to taste these things, which of course no one would want to. Don't get me wrong, but it's just amazing that some people are so perceptive and so sensitive to those types of chemicals that they're able to smell and taste when it's you're talking about nanoparticles here. So the size of these things are so tiny, and yet your perception is that you can smell and taste these things, and it's just, I think, really interesting. So luckily the entire population isn't able to, and yet if you think about it, if the entire population were able to, it probably would have stopped a long time ago, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is absolutely, it's by design, obviously. I mean, I wish everybody could smell and taste it because then there'd be no debate. But I can tell you that when I'm in a room, when I'm visiting family or I'm out in public, when we get hit with a very strong plume, everybody gets dark circles under their eyes. They don't feel good. People get headaches. They start getting nauseous. They start getting vertigo. If I'm with family, the kids, the younger kids start arguing and bickering. The adults become tired or get headaches or want to go to bed or don't feel good, get indigestion. I mean, always. This has gone on since 2005. I've seen this pattern over. So people are affected even if they can't smell or taste it. And you mentioned nanoparticles. Immediately when this happened, it ruined my quality of life. Every 2 hours, they started hitting us. They did it through the night, through the day. So it ruined our sleep. It ruined my work. It made me feel horrible. And so immediately I started trying to figure out how to filter it out. So I spent a lot of money on air purifiers and found out I bought some of the best consumer air purifiers from the Swiss company IQ Air. I have 2 of those units, which I still use. They did not remove the particles. And they had HEPA filters, and then they had another one. Yeah, they had another one called a hyper HEPA. And what I noticed is those would remove the smell of wood burning stove smoke, wood smoke. pet odors and other odors and the stuff that you just take, because I have a great sense of smell, obviously, and it would remove all that stuff. Those machines were great, but the taste and the smell of the chemtrails themselves were absolutely unaffected. Maybe there was a couple types that are slightly affected a little bit, and there's one recent type that actually can be removed that I have gotten on a 2.5 PM meter. So it makes sense that it's a large particle type. That's a whole nother discussion, I guess. But nevertheless, all the other types, the particles cannot be removed by HEPA filters. So I discovered that really early on, and then started experimenting with water-based purification. So
okay, yeah, and then in the dimming film that Mr. Dane put together, there are, you can kind of see some of those particles on the lab, forensics that they go into in that film. So they're real. I mean, they're there. It's just a matter of, most people can't smell and taste them, unlike yourself. So why don't you show us on this page here? Let me get back to where it is. You don't have to go through all these, but maybe just list them. So unless it might be too small for some people to read. So why don't you just tell us some of these different types?
Wonder if I can blow it up a little bit.
There we go. Yeah, that's great.
There we go. Yeah, this is a list in order of the ones that I encountered, and I just kept adding to this list. This is on the Global Skywatch website. The salty metallic type is the very first type that I encountered in Jamestown. Okay. And this is the type that gave me mercury symptoms, made me feel all the symptoms I mentioned earlier. And these are links. If you click on them, they go down to a section that actually gets into detail, composition, what the health effects are, personal protection that I take for them, and then feedback from people that's related to a particular type that I've heard. The barium type, now I've said that some of them are related to weather, and there's 3 types that are related to weather. The barium type, which you see right here at the top, is one of the types that is related to weather. I noticed early on, because all of these have a distinctive taste and smell. Even though some of them are very similar, they're still different, and I can tell the difference. The barium type has a very distinctive taste, and I noticed that this type was always sprayed anywhere from like 6 to 12 hours before incoming precipitation. And then what I would do is go look at radar, and when they started spraying this type, all of the incoming front would dissolve. It would you would see the clouds just go away like cotton on the radar, or the precipitation radar map, the Doppler
I know
radar.
what you mean, yeah. Dissipate.
It would all just dissipate, right?
Yeah.
And the barium type is one of the 3 types that's and still is today sprayed in front of incoming fronts. So that never followed the 2-hour rule. So that's why I say there's at least 2 separate programs, because all these other types, except for the 3 I'll mention, were sprayed on 2-hour intervals, which they've randomized that in the last 7 years. They really started randomizing, and I think it's because I was talking to a lot of people that were saying, my husband gets sick or my wife gets sick every 2 hours, blood pressure shoots up, gets headache. I'm like, yes, we get hit every 2 hours. And it was convincing a lot of people.
Wow.
And I started seeing them randomized now, where it's like every 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, and then it will get then they'll start layering where they'll keep it high for a long period. So they've really made it the patterns much more complicated in the last 7 years or so.
Yeah. So it sounds like they have a system, a group of planes that do maybe a program that's just for the weather, and then they have another program that's just for human health, maybe. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the tests we've done, the lab tests that we've got mercury, arsenic, lead, cadmium, strontium, barium, aluminum, tons of aluminum. Our rainwater was 6 times above the EPA allowed level for drinking water in rural Maine. There's no factories or anything around here. It was 300 micrograms per liter. The EPA secondary MCA level is 50, and we're at 300. So, but yeah, here's the other types. You see the drywall to adjust types. That's one of the other types that's actually sprayed in front of incoming. Acetone type is no longer used, but that was real popular for a while, that the air would just smell like acetone. And I would hear all kinds of people in our group, our Global Skywatch Facebook group, would say, I'm smelling acetone or paint thinner, they would say, or fingernail polish, and say, well, that's probably the acetone type. And these are more sensitive people.
Yeah.
Swamp water type is a biologic type. That actually, when they spray a lot of that, we start getting massive mold growth. And it actually smells like you're in a room with a very musty room with mold and mildew is what it actually smells like.
Okay.
Pharmaceutical type makes you feel like you're going to fall over and go to sleep. Sulfur type was only used for a very short time. It's funny, when they started spraying that, I've got videos on the Global Skywatch website that a bunch of big cities in California, they started smelling, the whole cities would large numbers of people would call in and report to the police that they're smelling sulfur in the air. And yeah, this happened to several large cities in California, and it was on mainstream news, and they explained away side a sewer pipe in the ocean was venting and something like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's interesting that happened at the same time we started smelling sulfur over on the East Coast. So isn't that interesting? So like you said, I won't go through all of these, but the real important ones, like this burnt plastic type, they spray this every day to this day.
Okay.
This actually smells like model cement and burnt plastic together. And they use this, and this causes heart problems, can cause terrible heart inflammation, lung inflammation, can burn your lungs. It makes the air feel very thick. It can burn your sinuses. And when I wear a thing that I call a wet mask for years, in fact, I've got, it's basically just a painter's mask, and I put over it a washcloth that's wetted and doped with essential oils, like peppermint is one of the best. And what happens is these cloths, when they spray these types, these cloths will actually begin to smell very, very strongly like these types. So I've had close friends who've smelled the cloths. I'd say, just tell this cloth, tell me what you can smell from it. And they would say burnt rubber or plastic.
Wow. Okay.
And I'd say that's exactly, once it gets concentrated enough, then people can smell it.
Okay.
This particular type, do you remember when they were having all the Canadian forest fires and there were reports from all over the United States that people were smelling burnt plastic?
Yeah, I do remember
Guess what it was? It was this type. They were the strongest stretches of time that they started spraying this type during the Canadian forest fires. They were spraying this particular type extremely strong, to the point it was just, we could hardly function here. It was outrageous. But anyway, you can see the other types here. Copper type. I've got friends who actually say, yeah, my daughter says she can taste pennies in the air. It tastes like when you taste a penny.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's the copper type. Sedative stimulant type actually makes you feel hyper and tired at the same time. Burnt electronics fungal type. This burnt electronics is a lot of people can smell this one too. This is the only large particle type that actually is stopped by HEPA filters. And it's funny, it's the only type that it can be detected. I'm an electronics guy, and I built some equipment here that detects particles. And it's the only one that is detected by the 2.5, which, it detects particles down to 2.5 micron.
Yeah.
It does detect this type. When this type is in the air, that thing will shoot up to 1,000, 2,300 readings, very high readings. But none of the other types affect that meter at all.
Okay.
And then the other thing to be concerned about, there is a Morgellons type, which makes you feel itchy. Now, doesn't affect everybody this way, but I call it, and these are names that I've assigned to these things just to I can identify them and categorize them. Yeah. But a lot of people report this type actually makes you feel like you're getting bug bites, which is actually a signature of Morgellons. And the Carnicom Institute is led by and was founded by a guy named Clifford Carnicom, which I believe you're familiar with him.
Yeah, we interviewed him on Lost Search Radio.
Beautiful. Yeah, I interviewed him a few times back years ago. And he actually said, definitively said, these are coming from the aerial spraying. And as far as my taste and smell goes, I can tell you that when they spray this type, and I called it the Morgellons type because the symptom, the physical symptoms of feeling like you're getting bit by mosquitoes is identical to the people who have Morgellons. That's a symptom that they have. The final thing I'll say, because I don't mean to go on so long here.
No, it's okay. We want to allow time for anything like this you want to talk about, so it's totally fine. Yeah, we do have one question here on that. So before you move too far.
Okay. Yeah. The last thing I'll say is I have a section here on types of biologics.
Oh yeah.
For the audience who hasn't heard this yet, and I speak very boldly about this because I know I have a responsibility to being someone who smells it and tastes it. There's a principle that says if you don't warn the people, then the blood is on your hands. And I know that specifically is referencing to salvation, but I think there's a larger principle too, that we are responsible for telling people about other types of danger as well. And the type, I've detected 3 types of biologics. And again, I'm trying not to talk too much because I could talk for hours on this, but I can.
No problem.
I have learned when I was a child, and I didn't know that I thought everybody could do this, but I learned when I was a child that when somebody got sick with a cold or flu, I could smell a particular odor on their breath. And usually even about a day before they would have it, and then they would get sick the next day. And I never talked about it. I thought everybody could do that. Yeah. And then I had there's some funny stories where girlfriend got mad at me because I told her about it, and she thought I was telling her she had bad breath. And the next day she apologized because she actually got sick the next day. Yeah. But anyway, there's 3 types of biologics. There's type 1, type 2, and type 3. Type 1, when they spray the type 1, which is not very common, people get the cold symptoms. Type 2 is very, very common. This gives people flu. People will actually get the flu. They will if they spray this 3 days in a row in our area, there will be pediatricians' offices will be packed, and the government offices will be shut down because everybody will have the flu. And there's type 3 that doesn't give you sniffles, but it makes your body ache as if you have the flu. And they're now spraying the type 3 a lot more now than they used to. But the type 2 biologics, I have another article I can show later in the show. There was a great flu outbreak in the United States in 2018, and there was another flu outbreak last year. And I told people about it. I published this before they happened. And I said, they are doing massive type 2 biologic spraying every day. Normally they do it for 3 days and they'll stop. So a lot of people get sick, but not everybody. But it's enough to make an impact on the local economy.
Sure, yeah. Yep.
When this happened in 2017, the day before Christmas Eve, they started hitting us with type 2 biologics so hard that it was absolutely burning my sinuses. It was absolutely terrible. I had to take a bunch of herbal supplements to keep myself from getting sick, which I can do, thankfully. But everybody got sick. The pediatrician's office were backed up 3 months, and we had that was the night before Christmas Eve in 2017, and they sprayed continuously for a couple weeks, and then we had what was called the Great Flu Outbreak of 2018. That was artificially induced, and there's actually a whistleblower that I think you were playing recently. I could be wrong on one of your shows, but I have him on this article where I talk about the flu outbreak of 2018 that was caused, and he said before the fact, I didn't even know this video existed until after this whole thing happened. Mm-hmm. But he had said this video was made before it happened. He said there will be in 2018 a large flu outbreak, which is going to be made by the aerial spraying. And I had no idea this existed, this whistleblower.
Wow.
So, yeah. Anyway,
that's crazy.
There's a lot to it. So
I don't remember that particular video, but I don't doubt it. I mean, it's amazing how much stuff like that does come out, especially after the fact, seems like.
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, I'll show you where the article is here in a little bit. But you said there was a question. Is there something I can?
Yeah, there's a couple questions here. This one from Susan. Russ, what would you call the type that smells like burnt wires? You had one that said burnt electronics. It sounds like it would be that one.
That is the one. Yes, exactly. The first time here, I'll show you where it is.
Yeah, and then for anybody that's interested, we'll send these links out in the Substack post that we'll put out probably tomorrow, possibly Tuesday. It just depends on how it goes. But we'll send these links out to you guys so you guys can find these on your own if you want to research them as well. He's got a lot of information here.
Yeah, they all have short links here that are social media friendly.
Okay.
I have a system here where it fools Facebook and fools all the social media so that they don't know they're going to our website, but then it redirects them using JavaScript. Nice. And it actually bypasses their censorship. So they're still working. So if you want to use them. But here's the burnt electronics. Awesome. The first time I smelled this, I remember this. I was home alone and I was doing work and stuff. And I started smelling this burnt smell. And I went through the house. I went down. I said, something's burning. I went downstairs in the basement. I couldn't find any problems. It was like everywhere throughout the house. Then I went outside and I walked around. It was outside everywhere. So I said, okay, either something's going on outside or something. Well, soon after found out that they started spraying this about 4 or 5 times a day. And they have for quite a while. They've actually really backed this one off in our area. I can't speak for other areas, but they backed off a lot. This was in early 2023 when I first smelled it. I've met people on Facebook who will say, like a wife, I heard, spoke with a wife, and she said, my husband, she goes, I can't smell it, but my husband got up and was doing the same thing. He was like, something's burning. Mm-hmm. And it's, now, and he discovered it was outside just like I did. And so he smells it like I do. And now I've met a lot of other people too who can actually smell it. And I call it burnt electronics. It smells like a transformer. I'm an electronics guy. It's what my degree is in. But it does smell like a burning transformer, and it's got a very characteristic smell. And the weird thing about this one is this is the only type that actually can be removed by HEPA filters.
Okay.
So for what it's worth, it's a large particle type, whereas all the rest of them are very small particle types. So that's the one. To answer your question, that's the one. Yeah.
Here's one other one from Susan. Does Morgellons type cause a skin rash similar to eczema?
It does. Morgellons does cause skin rashes. It can actually cause sore outbreaks on the skin as well. What's also interesting is mercury also can cause rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, and skin issues as well. And they are hitting us with a lot of mercury. Through the years, many years ago, I told people that mercury is the power broker's favorite drug. I call it the fear drug. It's their favorite poison. They put it in vaccines. They put it in, hope I'm not.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
VAXXs or vaccines.
There we go. Yeah, they put it in the sharp things. Now they're putting it in the air, and we have all the lab tests we've done. It's everywhere. It's in the water. It's on your desk. It's in your air filters. And and the funny thing is actually when I referenced this a few minutes ago, I told my business partner, Laura, she went through mercury poisoning with me. And I told her the day we were getting hit for the first time, I said, the symptoms of that plume that we were hit with these low flying jets in Jamestown caused all the symptoms of mercury poisoning to come back suddenly to me. And I said, could it be that they are using mercury? Could it be? And as time went on, I started categorizing all the symptom sets and all of the different types that they were using. And I was sure. I mean, I researched it, and there's all these toxic metals cause symptom sets, but there's nothing like the symptom set of mercury. There's some overlap with other metals, but the mercury symptom set is huge. It's very broad, and some of the symptoms are totally distinct to mercury. And these things they were spraying, several of them had those symptom sets that were absolutely identical to mercury. So I was telling people, I said, and plus combined with our lab tests, I said, they are obviously spraying us with mercury. 14 years after I first was saying that publicly in talk shows and in articles, Dr. Marvin Herndon, which actually he's on our website, which I see that you're still showing there. Cool. Scientists and academics. And he's right here. I've interviewed him a few times as well. Yeah. He actually wrote an article. This was 14 years after I was talking about mercury being sprayed. Contamination of the biosphere with mercury, another potential consequence of ongoing climate manipulation using aerosolized coal fly ash. He actually found that the signature of the metals in coal fly ash, that is the ratio between the metals. He actually has charts in his paper that show the ratios of the metals that he found on the ground that were specially concentrated during times when visible spraying was very heavy, and the ratios are the same as coal fly ash. And guess what? Coal fly ash is loaded with mercury. So, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and our good friend Mr. Richard Sachs was in process years ago. When I first started talking to him in 2014, early 15, he was living in a lab, sleeping in a lab, and they were doing work on coal fly ash. And, he later, within the last few years, developed all these, what seemed to be Parkinson's-like symptoms and, seemed to be central nervous system issues and other things, maybe related to that. I don't know.
That's very interesting. I knew, as you know, I knew Richard too, had a lot of conversations with him, long conversations and interviews as well. And Parkinson's can be caused by mercury. Many people are shocked at how many. 200 of the most common. I was saying this in interviews for years. I would tell people, conservatively speaking, mercury accounts as the cause of 100 of the most common diseases today. I'm not saying obscure diseases. I'm talking about, anything from balding to insulin, diabetes, leukemia. You can do the research and find out that mercury causes all these diseases. And what a lot of people would do is they would say, well, why do you try to relate mercury to so many of these diseases? I mean, why would you try to relate it that way? I said, you're looking at it backwards. What I would say to you is that mercury has been the favorite toxin of the powers that be to intoxicate the public. And this has been going on for a long time. There's even evidence that pharaohs and other people in ancient times were actually using things have come out in archaeological digs that have been very interesting about mercury in ancient times. But anyway, it's the favorite toxin because it causes such a vast majority of diseases. And so I would tell people, you're looking at it backwards. It's not that I'm trying to relate it to these diseases. It's that mercury is so incredibly prolific in the world and in your bodies. That's why we have the disease set. If the powers that be had chosen lead, we would have a different disease set. If they had chosen cadmium or something else, you would have a different disease set. But because they chose mercury, this is largely why we have the disease set we have today of these prolific diseases. In fact, I'll pull that up too and show people a list of. I'm on the Orbis Vitae website, and this is stunning to look at the number of diseases that have been associated. And mainstream media will not tell you this. Okay, and also you see up here. I'll zoom in a little bit here. You can also see that, mercury depletes your body of selenium, magnesium, zinc, iodine, and sulfur, and all of those are critically important. So you're talking heart attacks, your immunodeficiency, thyroid problems, massive thyroid problems, sleep problems, sulfur. I mean, you've got cysteine, which is a sulfur-bearing amino acid, all over your body. It's absolutely critical, and so because it binds to sulfur, then your joints are dependent on sulfur, your energy molecules are dependent on sulfur. So I mean, once you interfere with sulfur in your body, you're just going to have a whole mess of diseases. But here's some of the diseases: acne, allergies, apathy. There's a lot of hormonal feelings where it'll make you depressed, apathetic, violent, angry, bipolar, where you have high highs, low lows. Sleep issues, arterial sclerosis, acid reflux. I had a lot of these when I had mercury poisoning.
Okay.
So here's a list just scrolling by.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just the A's. There's a lot.
That's just the A's. Even balding. I mean, things like I started losing my hair. A lot of people come to me and say, I'm losing my hair. What's going on? So mercury. Mercury will raise dihydrotestosterone in your body. And it does that because in the conversion, dihydrotestosterone being broken down by the enzymes, mercury destroys your entire enzyme system. And that's why you'll end up getting acid reflux, you'll have chronic heartburn, you'll have undigested food, which then you'll start having IBS symptoms, and you'll start having gut problems.
Blockages and stuff.
Yeah. So you have a huge dihydrotestosterone, which destroys your hair follicles, and you'll have balding and grinding teeth. I had that very badly, easily bruising, bulimia, colitis, constipation, dementia, depression, diabetes, dysbiosis. I mean,
it just goes on, and the powers that be love it.
They've gotten rich. In fact, I think that mercury has been one of their most profitable operations, is to absolutely drench the population of mercury, because the medical industry has grown to be the second largest industry in the world, only second to oil. And it has been done by intentionally poisoning people, and the primary poison is mercury.
The Mad Hatters, right? That's where the Mad Hatters came from.
That's where, if you've ever seen Alice in Wonderland, where there was the Mad Hatter. That's kind of crazy, goofy, he's hyper. Oh yeah, he's all over the place.
Kind of nutty.
What's that?
He was kind of nutty. Yeah, he had the hat.
He was mad. Yeah, he was mad, mad in the English way of speaking. He was kind of crazy, and that's what mercury does to you when it gets in higher concentrations. And the reason that happens is because mercury depletes your neuroregulators like GABA-aminobutyric acid, which is GABA. This is why GABA has become so popular in the last 20 years as a supplement, because all these people are saying, I've got GABA depletion in my body.
Okay. Yeah.
And what GABA does is it actually regulates the speed of the firing in the synapses and the nerves. And so when you're depleted of GABA, you start having looping thoughts. You can't get thoughts. You can't out of your mind. You can't control your thoughts. You start having insomnia. You start becoming angry, irritable. And there's a whole nother thing that mercury does as well, is mercury actually blocks magnesium. And magnesium, for about 80% of the population, there's 3 different genotypes. There's people called Val-Val, Val-Met, Met-Met. And the people who are Val-Met, Met-Met actually require methionine in order to produce an enzyme in your body called COMT, which is catechol-O-methyltransferase. This enzyme is so critically important because this enzyme is the enzyme that breaks down epinephrine, adrenaline, norepinephrine, dopamine, and estrogen. And so what happens is when you're exposed to mercury, what mercury does is mercury depletes your magnesium, makes it, you have no bioavailable magnesium, or it's much lower. Your methionine levels drop, therefore you cannot produce catechol-O-methyltransferase. That means you can no longer break down those catecholamines, your adrenaline, norepinephrine, dopamine, and estrogen. So those levels go up, and so you become hyper, insomnia, and this is what is clearly associated with ADHD. You have hyperactivity because their adrenaline is through the roof because they can't break it down because they're exposed to mercury. And now, why isn't mainstream media talking about this? Because we know who owns mainstream media. You know, they all work together. So that's another thing, is that it also raises estrogen. And what happens when you raise estrogen then is you have feminization of males. You will have, it'll actually change their personalities, and it'll even cause swelling in your tongues. It'll actually, when you get mercury toxic for long enough, you can start to actually develop a lisp from it, depending on your genotype. And so you're highly estrogenic. Your appetites for relationships can actually change over time. It changes your personality. It changes your hormones, your enzymes, and it just, I'm going very quickly here because there's so many, you could spend shows on these things individually, but it just shows you the destructive power of mercury.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the old Alex Jones saying, "It's turning the freaking frogs gay." That's kind of what it's doing.
Yeah,
but he would say, all of humanity too, I think, to some degree.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was ridiculed a lot. Unfortunately, a lot of people made a lot of fun of him saying that, but it's actually absolutely true. Is that mercury raises estrogen, and then what you also have is higher levels of estrogenic-based cancers. And lots of other things besides, but
that makes sense.
There's a huge cascade of symptoms. Tinnitus, ringing in the ears. A lot of people are like, so many people have ringing in the ears today, and they don't know why.
Yeah, I've heard that. We had some comments in the chat actually about tinnitus already.
You're right. What's the deal with tinnitus? Well, when I had tinnitus that got progressively worse as my mercury levels rose, and when I had my fillings out, I mean, my ears would scream so loud, it was terrible. And my sleep problems were, I can't even express how bad they were. I was sleeping, I would feel worse waking up. I'd be up 5 times a night to have to go to the bathroom, because mercury does that. It actually puts your kidneys in high gear, and it demineralizes your body. But getting back to tinnitus, what happens is it causes excitotoxicity, but it also causes micro-inflammation. Mercury is very inflammatory. And in your ear, you have what are called ear hairs. And those hairs, and I'm a sound guy, I'm into music, as I know you are.
Yeah.
You're very profoundly into music. Those ear hairs vibrate, different hairs vibrate, and they're connected to what are called hair cells. And those cells transmit that vibration as electricity to your brain, and you perceive that as sound. Well, what happens is those cells start getting starved because they're fed with capillaries, very, very small capillary circulation. When you have that micro inflammation in your ears, it starts cutting off the circulation. And Google won't let me open Russ's web. I've actually heard that from more and more people.
Yeah, I ran into that myself, and don't lose your train of thought there, Russ. So, Sam, one thing you can try is type in the full URL, and that worked for me. So type in http://www.globalskywatch.com, and that might work. That worked for me because I got that message too. I know what Sam's talking about. So thanks, Sam, for that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so when those ear hair cells are being fed with blood and oxygen and nutrition, they get cut off. And what happens when those cells get cut off is they start to panic. They start to fire falsely. And that false firing is what the screaming is you're hearing. They're thinking they're detecting sound, but they're not. Your brain thinks you're detecting sound, but it's those cells, those ear hair cells are actually triggered by the distress that they're under because they're starving. And this is what happens in people too, especially elderly people. This happens is you get high frequency hearing loss. And what happens is that they're exposed to a lot of mercury from dentures. This is very common with dentures because the red coloring in dentures is from cinnabar, which is the red ore of mercury, at least in some dentures. And so after those hair cells, enough of them die off over time, you start having hearing loss in your ears. So this is yet another long-term symptom of mercury poisoning.
Yeah, and plus it was used in the VA-XXs for years as well as a I don't know exactly what it did in the vaccines, but obviously it was in there, and then supposedly they've tried to remove that, and I don't know if that actually happened or not. My guess is probably not. But
no, they didn't remove it. No, they had propaganda saying, yeah, we've removed it from the X's, the sharp things, but they did not. And it's still in the flu sharp things. And
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, if you have the multivial, which the flu things, it's in almost everybody has a multivial because that's a much cheaper way to distribute it. You're getting a nice dose, and statistically, you are much higher at risk to getting sick when you have it. And that makes sense because mercury is a potent immunodepressant. It depresses your immune system, and so does aluminum. And so you're getting both of those things. So
interesting. Sam says that worked with the URL, so that's good.
Oh, good job. Yeah. And that's one thing is that the Global Skywatch website is not yet on a secure server because we have to convert our forum, which I have not had the time to do.
Oh, yeah, the forum.
And so it looks like it says it's not on a secure server, which it's not, but there's no harm in that. You're not putting credit card information or anything into it. You're just browsing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the it's just the forum. Yep.
Yeah.
Thimerosal is what they used, aka mercury. Yep.
Yeah, thimerosal is like ethyl mercury. So it's even worse because it's actually more bioavailable. It's pre-methylated because mercury, you might have seen a lot of people in high school, you're sticking your hands in mercury and you never got sick and people never seem to have symptoms. Well, the thing is mercury, to become super bioavailable, it needs to be joined like with a methyl group. And then it becomes, and actually coffee and sugar will actually facilitate this. So a lot of people, wow, there's so much that you can go. Yeah. But anyway, so it has to be joined with a methyl group. Well, the nice people at the federal agencies and the big farm companies have actually gone ahead and pre-methylated it for you, so it's super bioavailable in your sharp things when you go get poked.
New England Dirt Roadie says, I've had tinnitus since 2009. It used to be 100% crippling, but over time it dulled, and I perceived amplitude and sensitivity. No fillings, no vaxes since I was 18. I drink a lot of chlorophyll.
Oh, a lot of chlorophyll.
Interesting.
Right here.
You got some right there, huh?
Got some water with some chlorophyll in it, yep.
So there you go. Mm-hmm. Sounds like he hit on something there. Wow, that's really interesting, Russ. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I knew you were a very smart guy. I didn't really know what your degree was in or anything, but man, You could definitely talk for hours on this stuff, and rightfully so. You've put the research in, and you've had to do it just for your own health.
I did. I'm very grateful. I really am grateful because I was able to learn about this subject because we were into natural health. That combined with my super sensitive sense of taste and smell, that combined with the fact that I was living in Jamestown at the time, we began getting hit with chemtrails, which never saw jets. So all of a sudden, these jets leaving trails. Mm-hmm. That combined with the fact that since I was in elementary school, I used to collect pictures of jets and rockets. That was one of the things I loved to do, and I'd never in my life seen a trail behind a jet. And what the powers that be, including the EPA, liars at the EPA, are trying to say, no, they've always been there. In fact, you can watch news reports from years ago saying that the sky was covered. No, you don't. Those are all faked. I told people years before that, I said, those news reports were actually generated with the real-time image proxy manipulation that they do, where you can actually, for instance, you could put George Bush's face on you, and when you move or talk, George Bush's face will move or talk right with you. That technology has been around for years, and that's clearly what they have done. And they're trying to literally change history, and they're trying to convince young people that this has been around forever. And it has not, because I've watched the sky. And that's why I named my first Facebook group and my website Global Skywatch, because I was a sky watcher, loved astronomy, loved stars. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut and go to Mars, probably with a lot of other kids too. But I was into that big time. So all of those things combined just led me to a point where it's like I smell it, I see it, I know it's not supposed to be there. I know jets and rockets since I was a kid. I almost got a pilot's license. Actually, I went through flight training. I've had pilots in the family. I've got military in the family. A jet airborne ranger. I used to go to drop zones and fly up or watch, do observations, and so on and so forth. But all those things combined, as soon as I saw this happening, I smelled it and tasted and saw jet. I grew up in the Tampa Bay area, and there were jets over the sky almost all the time. It's a very busy airspace, north of Tampa Bay and Newport Richey. And it's like, I've never in my life, I was watching the sky all the time. I've never seen a trail behind a jet unless you went to an air show where they do it intentionally.
And I just pulled up this page on geoengineeringwatch.org. The high bypass turbofan jet engine is what you're talking about. And there's a whole article on here about that as far as it not leaving trails. It was not designed to do that. It was designed to be as efficient as possible, right?
Yes, that's exactly true. In fact, that original version of that article, Dane updated it, or somebody did. Yeah. Actually, he took it from my website.
Okay. It came from Global Skywatch.
From Global Skywatch. I wrote that article, very detailed article about all the reasons why. In fact, I'll pull it up here. And here's another thing. I mean, there's
a little animation there on the left side of the screen that I think helps explain how the air flows.
Yeah, in a high bypass turbofan, 85% of the air that goes through a high bypass turbofan does not go through the engine. You have this incredibly high velocity and incredibly high volume of air that is going around 360 degrees around the engine, and then you have the actual exhaust from the compressors going out the center of this. First of all, you don't have nearly enough water output in those engines to make enough ice crystals to produce a trail. It is absolutely ridiculous that they're even trying to sell that story to the public and that people bought it. But I do understand people don't understand how bypass engines work, and that's fine. Even if you didn't have a bypass engine, the old F-16s or F-14s and the fighter jets that I used to grow up looking at, they didn't have trails behind them either. And they didn't have high bypass. They were actually combusting all of the air that went through the engine. So this is just a lie, just a fallacy they made up to try to lie to the people. One thing that I'd like that people need to think about, I've got a whole article here. I'll show you the link here at the top. So if anybody wants to go to it, it's right here. This gets into a lot of detail why that these engines, it's physically impossible for them to produce trails. And there's a nice whistleblower guy who came out veteran commercial tire Willem Felderhoff, actually said the formation of contrail from high bypass turbofan is highly impossible. These engines are made in such a way where it's nearly impossible to form a persistent contrails. He's exactly right. He's one of the good guys who's coming out and actually talking about this. But the bottom line is this, is that if you have a 747 is 4 engines, big engines, okay, moving a lot of air. They use 1 gallon of fuel every 1/10 of a mile. 1 gallon every 1/10 of a mile. So think about this. You're looking down the road at 1/10 of a mile. You've got 1 gallon you're going to set down the road. Then you've got a parallel road. You're going to set another gallon, and then another one, and then another one. And they're trying to tell you that 1 gallon of water can produce a plume that is so huge, so thick, and so opaque that you can't see through it. At least this is what the original plumes look like. They absolutely were big, thick, huge plumes coming out of these jets. They have since made them, at least in our area, well, now in our area, they don't even have many more. The jets are still flying, but they slowly made them shorter and shorter and shorter and less persistent over the years. Now we don't have any, except about 5 days out of the month do we see any trails at all. Whereas it used to be that it looked like a war zone every single day here in the Bangor, Maine area. This is where I live now. Now we hardly ever see trails, except, just like I said, a few days out of the month. So you have to ask yourself and just use common sense. If you have 4 gallons of water, now a 747 engine wingspan is almost the size of a football field. It's like 290 feet. Okay. These plumes will spread out when you're looking at 747, because there are 747s, which are one of the military tankers. These plumes will spread out to be 3-4 times the length or the width of the wingspan within just a few minutes, within a few seconds. And especially the original plumes they started spraying for the first 10 years, you couldn't see them, couldn't see through them. They covered the entire area behind the jet. They spread out to several football fields in width, and you knew it was that wide because you could use the wingspan as a reference. So you'd have your jet, and after 10 seconds, the plume would be this wide behind the jet. So let's just say it's 2 or 3 foot. Let's say it's 1 football field for that matter. Can you go 1/10 of a mile down a football field with 4 gallons of water and create a plume so thick and so opaque that you can't see through it?
No.
I don't use the word stupid very much, but the people who believe this are not thinking. And I don't expect the public to understand this, because a lot of the public doesn't understand that the nightly news is, all of them, they're very tightly coordinated. They lie to you. The scripts are very tightly written. The propaganda is prepared in advance so that they can convince people this stuff is true. That's just part of the story, though. And I did this experiment where I have a video somewhere on a website, on the Global Skywatch website, where we actually took a tea kettle and we blew high velocity steam into the air. Okay, so it turns into ice crystals very quickly, and it makes a plume. It makes this little stream of ice crystals coming out. Then we took a blower. Now this was just a computer blower for cleaning computers, because I do electronic computer building and work. We had this thing outside. It was 7 degrees. I know it's actually colder up there in the atmosphere. That plume is coming out. When you blow even a moderate stream of air past this stream of steam coming out, the steam disappears instantly. It's just gone, because you're diluting it so quickly with other air. A high bypass turbofan has 85% of the expelled air comes from around the engine, 360 degrees around the actual compressors that are expelling the air. So even if they were expelling steam or ice crystals, the dilution factor would be a huge factor in dissipating the visibility of those crystals. So again, this article has a list of reasons why this whole propaganda to try to convince people this is happening is true. But so please visit it, check it out, share it with people. And also think about helicopters. Guess what kind of engine helicopters use? They use jet turbines, just like jet engines do. In fact, if you listen to a helicopter, even at the end of this article, we've got a helicopter. Take a listen. This helicopter sounds exactly like a jet engine starting up because it is a jet engine, essentially. It's still got the same type of engine, the same type of fuel. When's the last time you saw these trails coming out of helicopters?
Yeah, pretty much never.
Pretty much never. Pretty much never. And what these guys will do, and this happened back in our group, we had shills and people flooding our Facebook group that had 192,000 people in it.
Yeah, I remember. Yep.
Yeah, we had them coming in and they would show the same 8 pictures from World War II saying, look at all the trails. See the trails coming out of these jets?
Yeah.
What they don't tell you is, first of all, they're prop jets. Second of all, the ones that have jet engines were not high bypass and they were using water injection.
I remember.
And there's only 10 pictures. Where's the trail coming out of the other 10,000 pictures? Furthermore, Doug, when you go online and you actually search for World War II photography, because I did this years ago to get a picture of a collection of planes from World War II. Guess what? It's the same 10 pictures that they used to just feed to this group. Say, look, see, they do create trails. Those were the only pictures I could find. All the other pictures, there were no trails. But guess what? I found hundreds upon probably thousands of illustrations of World War II jets. And guess what the illustrations, these were artist renderings of these jets in flight. They all had trails after them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? So they make, it's like, this isn't a real picture. It's just an illustration, but they put a trail after it. So people just think, oh, that's how it really works.
Yeah,
like,
normalizes. No. Yeah, normalizes all that. Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's just further psyop. The whole thing is a psyop.
Well, it's like the guy who came out from Disney. He said he was paid millions of dollars by Disney to insert trails in old Disney movies.
Yeah, I remember, and I've seen clips of those on your website, I think. With some of the cartoons especially, where they've gone in and added those as they were making the cartoons, and then, in old movies too. Yeah,
I captured these right here. I watched the movie with some friends called Over the Hedge. Funny movie, right?
Yeah, I remember
and
it.
This was shortly after chemtrails began in our area. And look back there. What do you see? I saw that immediately because I'm a skywalker.
I see that trail.
First thing I look at when I see something is the sky.
Yeah.
There's a trail. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so I captured it. And as the movie went on, look, it's kind of subtle, but it's there.
Yeah, it's there.
There it is.
It's all normal, kids.
Right there. Look at this. Trail after trail after trail throughout the movie.
Every sky shot, pretty much.
Almost every sky shot through the first 2/3 of the movie behind. Look at this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, so I immediately took the DVD because we were watching DVDs back. You rent DVDs. And I took these screenshots. And within the next year, these screenshots, exact screenshots that I posted here, were all over the internet. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
So that's the way they're what they're doing. This is a process that, Doug, of course, is called normalization.
Yeah.
You want to, especially the children, you want to get this normalized. The children, oh, those are normal. That's what jets do. No, that's not normal. That's not what jets do.
Yeah. It's it's a little bit of a dichotomy because, they could have added those on purpose to normalize it. But on the other hand, when you look up in the sky, you always see those. So therefore, the director probably thinks it's normal. So, hey, we forgot to add the trails in those scenes. We need to put those in. I don't know.
Oh, right. It's like, is art imitating life or is life imitating art is the question.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, though, because this was done at the very beginning of this whole phenomenon, that it would be more likely. I obviously think it's propaganda because why would you take a movie and make ugly things in the sky? Because jet pollution, if you want to, things that come out of jets don't make the sky beautiful. Clouds are beautiful.
Yeah.
But those are not beautiful.
It's really in your face in that particular movie, at least. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And even in the movie Cars, there's another, that was even more popular than Over the Hedge.
Yeah.
What they did in the movie Cars is they actually put trails of vehicles in the sky.
Car tracks. Okay. Wow.
Car tracks in the sky. And it's it's psychologically the same concept.
Mm-hmm.
You have a vehicle, and then they put vehicle trails in the sky, which they know is kind of a play on, the trails from jets, obviously. Mm-hmm. But it's like, why do you, anyway.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
all over. All over.
So crazy. Well, before we get off this subject, tell us a little bit about your heart attack experience, the issues that you had with the heart. And I think it was more than one, if I remember right. And I don't think a lot of people know about that story, at least people that I am in touch with. So let us know a little bit about that whole thing.
Yep, my first heart attack, I've had multiple. I have had 8 heart attacks.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yes.
And you're still with us.
Yes, and I'm very grateful that I'm still with us.
Yeah, praise God. That's
Still
amazing.
here. And the reason I'm still here is because thankfully I know what the poison is. I know how to counteract it. And so I've been able to recover from these heart attacks. The first heart attack, I did not know what was going on. But what happened is I was in Bangor doing errands for 2 days for all day long. And I wasn't able to wear my wet mask, and they were spraying very, very hard. And I was very aware that the barium type, I called it the barium type for a reason. I called it the barium type because it was always sprayed, as I said earlier, in front of incoming weather fronts. And I know that barium compounds like barium salts are actually used for that purpose. I don't know that this type contains barium. I did not know that. I still don't know it for sure. Because we'd have to follow one that smells that particular way to test it. It's a very hard thing to test. But that's why I named it the barium type, because I thought there was a high likelihood it contained a lot of barium. So after 2 days of not being able to wear my mask and being exposed to very strong spraying in the Bangor area, because I would normally wear my mask every day throughout the day, and it helps tremendously, by the way, that night, I started having heart problems, had a heart attack. Long story short, took my first ambulance ride in my life, call an ambulance, they picked me up, so on and so forth. They tested me, everything. They tested my heart up, down, backwards, MRIs and scans and EKGs and everything. Over the period, I was in the hospital for over 4.5 days. Couldn't find anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with your heart, but they found one thing. One thing. The nurse walks up to my bedside and she goes, "Here, take these." 4 big, huge pills. And I don't take anything unless I know what they are. So I said, I'm on good terms. I'm very friendly with people. I believe you always got to be kind and friendly with people.
Sure, yeah.
I said, okay, what are those? And she looked at me in the eyes and she goes, "Those are potassium." She goes, "Your potassium is low, like dangerously low." And that's the only problem they found with me.
Wow.
Well, guess what? Guess what barium does to the human body?
Removes potassium.
Barium, that's right. Barium rapidly depletes potassium from the body.
Okay.
And in fact, barium is so good at causing heart attacks that it is used in animal testing to artificially induce heart attacks in animals.
Okay.
Barium.
Wow.
Yes.
I wonder if that's the old CIA heart attack gun. You suppose that's barium related or maybe frequency related? Or
I'll tell you exactly what I think it probably is based on the symptoms and everything.
Yeah.
I have an idea. The barium type isn't sprayed now and hasn't for a long time as often as the other types. There's other types. The other types cause heart problems very rapidly, and they deplete magnesium very quickly. And I knew this. I could tell because I know what low magnesium symptoms are. You have twitching muscles, pulled muscles, constipation, headaches, low energy because magnesium is used in the production of your energy molecule, adenosine triphosphate, more commonly known as ATP. So when you have those symptoms, you can say, yeah, magnesium is probably low. And if you take it, about an hour later, you should get some relief. And you should hydrate as well. So I noticed that the other 7 heart attacks that I had, now the first one I believe was probably related to barium because the 2 days preceding the exposure, the heart attack, I was very highly exposed to the barium type. However, the 7 following heart attacks were induced by a different type. And it was a different type that causes rapid magnesium depletion. Now, I didn't have any idea what this stuff was, but I do know that things like mercury does deplete magnesium. I didn't know of other things specifically that did that. But again, my company does herbal and nutritional research. So we have had our faces in research for the last 25 years. And I'm very grateful for this because this has saved my life. After going through heavy magnesium supplementation for years, I did have other heart attacks that happened. And what I did is I immediately, because I could tell that they were oncoming and getting worse as these particular types were sprayed, and they were always accompanied with low magnesium symptoms. So I said, I think this is a low magnesium heart attack. And the thing people have to understand about magnesium is that when you flex a muscle, your muscle flex is because your muscle cells are pulling calcium into them, which causes them to contract. When a muscle releases, it's because your muscles are taking in magnesium, and magnesium relaxes the muscle. So calcium contract, magnesium relax. If magnesium is not available, you will get muscles that will flex or flex on their own, and you'll get Charlie horses or cramps or heart attacks or heart arrhythmia because your heart's a muscle. So you can actually have heart attacks that are induced by low magnesium. The thing that was fascinating to me is that the taste of these substances that they were spraying that was inducing these rapid drops in magnesium in me didn't taste like what I remember amalgam fillings tasting like, because I had a metallic taste in my mouth with the fillings until they took them out and I had the miraculous recovery. It tasted different. It tasted almost organic. It was like a bitter herb, weird something, unlike anything I've ever tasted before. So I kept supplementing and I had a few heart attacks, and I would immediately rapidly dose with high magnesium, water, vasodilators like capsicum and lobelia, and some potassium. I would keep my potassium ratio lower though. You don't do potassium rapidly too quickly, but potassium, your body does use potassium to metabolize magnesium to a degree. And there's a 4.8 ratio that if the world was a normal place, you would take, a 4.8 ratio of potassium to magnesium. Well, what I needed to do here is I turned it around and flipped it over. I had to be taking a lot more magnesium. And it was only with this particular type that I call the magnesium blocker. I give them very pragmatic names because I need to remember what they are and I need people to understand what they do. Mm-hmm. Well, here's what happened. COVID happened. And Dr. Brian Ardis and other doctors started researching what was in the sharp things. Right. And you probably have heard all about this, is that they found that the vials that were very harmful to people contained bungarotoxin.
Yep.
Bungarotoxin is an excretion or a venom.
It's a venom, yeah.
From the crate snake.
Mm-hmm.
What is the symptom of bungarotoxin? Bungarotoxin causes extremely fast magnesium blockage in your body, which then leads to tremors, heart attacks, feeling very cold. Your hands and feet will get cold, or you'll just feel chilly. And the reason for the venom is the venom is meant to paralyze its victim, right? It paralyzes its victim. And that's what a lack of magnesium will do, is it'll paralyze. Your muscles tighten up. They don't have the magnesium to release. So I learned because of Dr. Ardis, I said, I wonder the symptom set, when you saw people getting the sharp thing for the C19, you would see some of them once in a while, they would fall over and start having tremors. Mm-hmm. And this is what started happening to me with some of the types this particular type they were spraying that had that weird flavor to it. I had the tremors, the cold hands and feet, the obvious magnesium blockage, and it would result, if I let it go too long without taking a high dose of magnesium, it would result in a heart attack. That's why I've had 8 of them, and I was able to recover from all of them. I did call an ambulance on one because I was having a really hard time for certain reasons, which I'll get into later, I guess. But every one of the other ones I was able to recover from with vasodilators and high magnesium together, and they would go away after that. So,
wow, that's amazing. And the potassium was important too.
Yeah, I think that could save lives. If you have somebody who has a heart attack, and again, I'm not a doctor, I don't get medical advice. In fact, everything I say, you just take it for entertainment purposes only, because I don't know anything and I don't say anything. So
Yeah.
but you might want to consider talking to your health professional about if you're in the vicinity of someone having a heart attack. High magnesium may be, I see the note there. Yeah, high magnesium may be the key for them as well, because the stuff I'm telling you right now, I've had a lot of people tell me. In fact, Solaris Blue Raven, who I did an interview with her 2 nights ago, she told me a while ago, she goes, I don't know what it is, but I feel chilly all the time. I've talked to people say, I've got my thermostat set to this normal temperature, but I just feel cold. Why am I cold? For like years, I've been cold all the time. I don't know. Am I getting old? Say, no, guess what? That's part of what the bungaro toxin does, is because you're having chronic magnesium depletion. Your ATP production is going down, and then you can't make energy. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Susan's asking, what type of mask do you recommend if spraying is heavy?
Oh, I have it right here. This is the single most helpful tool that I have in helping my health. Now, I am an herbal practitioner. We do we are herbal research. We're not practitioner. We actually research and we sell our information to naturopathic doctors and herbalists around the United States and some other countries. And it's research. I mean, we're talking about peer-reviewed journals and clinical studies. That's what we deal with. And in fact, in 2019, right before the C19 thing started, we were through the company one of the companies we work with, we were actually demanded to take 180,000 web pages down containing peer-reviewed clinical research about herbs. They had to come off the internet, and we weren't allowed to show them anymore.
I remember you talking about that to Richard on Lost Arts Radio. Yeah, that's crazy.
And because we're in contact with so many other practitioners, we heard back from a number of other practitioners that we know personally, because we know them all across the United States. They actually had the same thing happen to them. They were ordered to remove this information. This was right near the end of 2019. All happened at the same time.
That's crazy.
This is real life. This is all coordinated. Being in the politics that I've been, connected with the people that I have been blessed to meet. Boy, was it
and the only solution to all of the C19 stuff was the jabbies. That was the only way you could go. No other choice around it. Everything else has to go away. All the other information has to go away.
And the treatment was remdesivir, which killed 54% of the participants in the study. They had to shut the study down because it was so incredibly lethal.
I remember.
And that was Fauci's plan.
Yeah.
It wasn't Fauci's plan. Fauci's just a cog in the wheel. He's a big cog in the wheel, but he's just a cog in the wheel of a much bigger machine. But
I remember when I first saw that word, remdesivir, and what caught my attention was right in the middle of the word is the word deceiver. If you look at the way it's spelled, it's got deceiver right in the middle of it. So, hey.
So true.
It means something.
Well, to answer the mask, this one's a little ragged. I used these for several months. This is not the mask that protects you, because this will not stop nanoparticles.
Maybe hold it a little closer, because we're getting that blur effect. There you go.
Let me see if I can get it to unblur here.
There you go, right there.
I can't. In fact, I've got an article that gives you where you can buy these and everything. This is just this is from Home Depot, actually. It's just like an $8 mask for painters. This does not stop the particles. The only reason for this is to hold this over your face. Now, you can tell by the shape of this, I use these a lot over a period of years.
Yeah.
What this is, it's a washcloth that's coarsely woven. If it's too finely woven, you won't be able to breathe through it very well. But it's a coarse woven washcloth that I wet with water. And then what I do is I put a couple drops of peppermint oil on it.
Okay.
And the reason is that I'll tell you the reason for that in a minute. I also tend to use lavender, and I also love orange. I do this just for the pleasantry of it. I love orange.
Okay.
I love scents and taste. I'm a foodie because of my sense of talent. So I'm like, I do this. The orange just makes it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Lavender is good for relaxing. So at night, I'll put lavender on the mask so it helps me relax. But here's how it works is that early on, I mentioned earlier that I noticed right off the bat, I bought 2 IQ Air. This is a Swiss manufacturer of
filters,
air purifiers. They're some of the best in the industry, and neither one of them would remove the chemtrail fallout from the air. They did a great job and everything else, but they just wouldn't. That's when I realized we were dealing with nanoparticles. And then I told you that I started experimenting with building my own water-based purifiers, because I knew that you would have to chelate the air, because if you're dealing with nanoparticles, you're going to have to use chelation. And really what it comes down to is there's industrial equipment that uses what are called water vortex systems. And they use Paul rings, and they circulate water, and they blow the air up through the water. Sometimes they have additives in the water, and then it literally chelates nanoparticles out of the air. Except those things are very expensive, and you're not typically going to have one of those in your home. So what I said after experimenting with all this, I said, you know what? Those things chew up so much electricity, and they also put a ton of humidity in the air, which then you have to use more electricity to get rid of. I need to just remove this stuff from the air that's going in my mouth. So I can only have to, that way I only have to deal with a much lower volume of air. So I said, let me wet a washcloth. And because I know that these are particles, and some of them, because they actually smell like petroleum byproducts, they are probably oil-based. And in fact, an early whistleblower actually said, and that interview is gone from the internet, but I saw an early interviewer actually said, he came from one of the industries that he said was manufacturing this stuff, if I remember right, that they're actually using petroleum products as a carrier and putting exotic metals in that petroleum product and dispersing them from the sky. And I said, well, guess what?
Wow.
Oil binds to oil, right? So on a fine level, if you put aromatherapy, if you put essential oils in a washcloth like this, if you go into that washcloth and pretend your little tiny nanoparticle going through this, this looks like fibers going all over the place. What you do, I put the oil on this and I fold it up for about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and the oil vapor just spreads throughout this, and it coats the fibers, and it makes it very effective. Then I put this over my mouth like this, and I put the mask over. I'll go ahead and do it. This is what I do. I've gotten pretty good at it. I just go like this.
Yeah.
This is what I wear all day long. This has helped my health more than anything else that I've done. And I'll tell you that if they're spraying us hard, within 60 minutes, this thing will absolutely reek like you dipped it in model cement.
Wow.
And I have to change them out frequently. If the air is like it is now, right now we're sitting at intensity, what I call 8.25. I can tell you the components in the air. We've got model cement is almost always in the air. That's the most common type, like I said earlier. We've got not so much inflammatory. When they spray the inflammatory, my veins are popping. But tonight, for some reason, they're not doing the inflammatory as much, which is actually, that's kind of odd. But the model cement's the dominant type right now. We've got some magnesium blocker. My hands are actually chilly because I haven't taken my magnesium for a little while. But anyway, so the oil in the particulates actually gets trapped in this to a degree. This doesn't trap 100%, but depending on the type that is in the air, this will trap anywhere based on taste and smell. I mean, I've not done scientific or lab tests on this. I wouldn't even know where to go yet. You'd have to find somebody to work with you, and it'd probably be quite expensive. But based on taste and smell, this removes about, depending on the type, the chemtrail type, this removes about anywhere from 35 on the low end to about 80% of the taste and smell. And immediately when we're being hit hard and I'm feeling that horrible feeling, I feel it a little bit now, but it's enough where I would still be wearing it right now, and it actually makes me feel better. Within minutes, I will start feeling better once I put one of these on. So my business partner, who's not an ultra-sensitive person like myself, she wears one now too because it helps her as well. But it's a long-term thing, because you just don't want these coming in, because nanoparticles will go right through your lungs into your bloodstream. And what that means is they basically have a sharp thing. They have access to your bloodstream just as if they were poking you with a sharp thing.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the thing about nanoparticles. And what makes them so dangerous is because the surface area of nanoparticles is extremely high compared to the volume. And this is the reason they can affect your health dramatically. But yet you can go have a hair test, or you can have a blood test, and you won't show much elevation, if any at all. Because, and this is a military principle, is that they actually did testing, and they could take regular particles, 2.5 or 5 ppm size particles, your typical particle sizes of aluminum, and put them in the air, and people generally won't have any symptoms. If you take the same particle and you break it into nanoparticle size, you've increased the surface area exponentially, which means you've increased the binding capability exponentially, which means you've increased the toxicity exponentially, and yet your blood test won't show much, if any, of an elevation of aluminum. And so you're still wondering, why are you sick? What's going on with you? That's why nanoparticles are one of the ultimate weapons. And that's why this is so dangerous, because people don't know that this is happening to them.
Yeah, and the smaller the particles are, the worse they are, right? For your health.
They are, because of the surface area. Yeah, I mean, if you think about a basketball, it has a certain surface area, a certain amount of surface area. If you cut it in half, now you've just added that entire surface that you've cut. If you take those two halves and cut them, now you've added that whole surface area. Take those pieces and cut them, now you've got that surface area. If you picture this in your mind, you can quickly realize that you can literally increase the surface area of that basketball exponentially just by continuously cutting it into smaller and smaller pieces, yet the volume is still the same. The surface area is dramatically increased, and that's what increases the toxicity and the bioavailability.
That's amazing. Questions in chat. Are those N95 masks?
I don't know. I can look up the number, and I can tell you probably pretty quickly.
Okay.
I've actually got on the Global Skywatch website, it's actually, the link is wet mask. You go to gsw.bz/wet mask.
Okay.
And
there you go, folks.
I'm missing a dash. Oh, I did web mask. Wet mask. There we go.
Mask.
So there's the link if you want to read the article.
Yeah.
If I zoom that in a little bit. This has links. This is the washcloth that I use. There's a couple different ones.
Link on Amazon. Okay. So there you go, folks. If you're needing a mask, he's got it right there.
Yep, and this is just a 3M 8293 painter's mask. That's just for convenience to keep it over your face. Looks like the current they've gone up in price, so they're $12 now. Yeah. But I've got a box of these so that I can have them for a while, because
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Must take a bunch.
Well, yeah, I mean, a mask like this will last me 3 months easily.
Okay, yeah.
And what happens is these tabs will eventually tear off,
Yeah. And you're just replacing the inside part anyway. That's why they last so long.
The washcloth is what's doing the real work of filtering.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The mask is just holding the washcloth on your face, really.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, it makes an unbelievable difference for me.
Well, good.
Yeah.
That's really good information. So, and if you guys can't find these links, we will put this out in the Substack post. And Russ, you have a Substack too, right? Russ Tanner Substack?
Yep, just russtanner.substack.com, yep.
Yeah. So you guys be sure to follow Russ on Substack. And then I don't have a banner for that, but you guys, I think, know what my Substack is. We'll put this out on my Substack in the next couple days. So make sure you guys are on there, diamonddisc.substack.com. Diamond Disc is just my company name, my business name. So that's what that one is. So yeah, thanks, Russ. That's really good information. Anything else you wanted to mention about all of that?
Well, it's a subject. I believe this is the largest. I believe that this is the number one cause of disease in the world today. It's happening. All the governments of the world. I know people think that, China doesn't work together with us, and the Soviet Union doesn't work together with us, and none of that's true. They all started chemtrailing at the same time. They all started working together. This happened in Asian countries. It began during the same 10-year period. This whole program started in all the countries of the world. And when you do your research, you eventually realize that the countries of the world are all working very closely together to push a globalist agenda, which is another huge subject. So I would just say that there's so much behind this, but I'll just put it in short form. The bottom line is that This is clearly the number one cause of disease. So many people are sick today. When they started spraying us in Jamestown, we had, I mean, even our employee there, one of our employees' father ended up with cancer within a few months. Laura's cat died within a week of the neighbor's cat dying shortly after this started. We knew a bunch of other people got cancer in that area. And then whenever they would hit us, they would get sick immediately. People get vertigo, headaches, all kinds of nausea, and all kinds of symptoms. When you're exposed to toxins at this level, and you're exposed 24 hours a day, you can't smell or taste it, but it's by design. So what I would just tell people is I speak very boldly about this because I firmly believe that this is the number one source of toxicity today. So don't believe them when they're trying to say, oh, we're trying to save the earth. California is passing legislation that you can't buy small engines after 2027. Anything with a small gas burning engine or a regular generator like you would get at Home Depot, because we want to save the environment. In Maine, they're trying to say you can't have wood burning stoves anymore. They're not trying to save the environment. They're causing all of these problems because they're going to use these problems to legitimize globalism. They're going to say the only way we can solve pollution, terrorism, war, famine, pestilence, and all of these other problems are by global government. But the great irony is, and we have a big article about that too on the Orbis Vitae website, the great irony is the people who are causing the problems to legitimize globalism are precisely the same people who are going to run the global government that they're trying to legitimize.
Yeah.
It's absolutely stunning to see what they're doing to the people.
Yeah, we're seeing it unfold just in leaps and bounds. Not even every year. It seems like every week. It seems like something else is happening. So that does make sense. Creating chaos everywhere so that they can come in with a solution.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. And thank you on the screen there. Here's an article. I mean, none of this is pretty looking. It's not there to be pretty looking. It's there to give you good information.
Oh yeah.
The link is the link is gsw.bz globalism right up here. Another safe for social media link.
That takes you right to that page.
That takes you directly to this page. And here's a list of things. This is a witness here. Carol Rosin.
Okay.
Actually was in touch. You know about this, right? Probably. Yeah, Carol Rosin actually knew Wernher von Braun, who ran NASA for years during Apollo.
Yep.
Wernher von Braun confessed later in his life that these problems are all fake, that they're all being created to bring in a globalist government.
Yeah.
And I mean, so this is one of the most important articles because this is the lie that's being told to the world to bring in one world, the new world order. All these lies, weather, earthquakes, violence, terror, all these things are being facilitated artificially. And yes, somebody just says, Westvac says 100% biblical. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were warned about this. In fact, Revelation 8, and I apologize. I know it sounded like you were wrapping up, so I wanted to finish up.
No, go ahead.
Revelation 18:23, what does it say? In fact, let me just pull this up. Talk about biblical. I mean, in the Bible, there are a lot of statements that we call technology statements. They're actually statements that actually are clearly making reference to technology, right? And so if we look at, let me see where that is. Oh, you know what? It's down here.
Is that the forum that's on your website?
Yes, this is the forum on Orbis Vitae right here.
Okay, yeah.
I've got an article here. You can look it up at gsw.bz. If you want to try to remember GSW, it actually stands for Global Skywatch.
Yeah, gsw.bz, like business. Kind of.
Exactly. gsw.bz / and then that's where all of our social media safe links are. This is Rev 18 for Revelation 18.
Yeah.
Here's what Revelation 18:23 actually says. It says, "For your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived." This, when the Bible says something, even if it says some little thing, like this is one sentence. Of course, sorcery is mentioned like 5 times in Revelation, if not more. But what this actually says is for your merchants. If you look up the Greek word for merchants, it actually means wholesalers or traders. those who do commerce on a large scale. Okay? So these people who are doing commerce on a large scale were the great men of the earth. If you look up the Greek word great, it actually is a word that means powerful. Doesn't mean nice or good, it means powerful. So for your merchants were the powerful men of the earth, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived. The word sorcery, I know a lot of people knew this. I learned this back in the 90s. And I started talking about this because this was absolutely amazing. For by your sorcery, the word sorcery is the Greek word pharmakia. And the Greek word pharmakia means to drug or poison. And it's where we get the English word pharmaceutical from. But it doesn't just mean pharmaceutical. It means to drug or poison. And we are now watching in the sky the largest poisoning operation of the earth, of life, of plants, animals, and people that has ever taken place. And isn't it interesting how this is a technology statement? Because you're not going to produce sorcery that deceives all the nations. Global sorcery, global poisoning of the world on horseback with bows and arrows, are you? This is obviously a reference to technology. So from someone who smells and tastes it, let me tell you, people get sick in front of my eyes, they get headaches and get symptoms because it is that strong. So even if you don't feel it, you're breathing it 24/7. Every state I've been through, it's the same. I mean, some states are worse than others, generally speaking, but Maine is actually the worst of all the states. I think I want to move to Nashville, Doug.
Well, you're welcome to. Yeah. Yeah, and actually, the Revelation 18:23, where it's talking about the industrialists, the merchants, you are the first person that I have ever heard explain that in pharmakia. And we were on the phone together years ago, you probably don't remember, and you explained that to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that all makes sense. And to me, it's almost like it all fits into the strong delusion, what the Bible talks about, the strong delusion, and not necessarily just COVID-19, but all of this with pharmakia.
I think, and I've only brought this up in one talk show in my entire life, and I will say this right now, if it's okay.
Go for it.
I don't know if we have time, and I don't want to.
Oh, we got plenty of time. I mean, if you're doing okay, we got plenty of time. We're good.
Oh, I'm swell here.
Okay.
I'm doing great. In fact, I'm going to take my next magnesium shot right here because I can feel the coldness because they're hitting us.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I believe in that Scripture is precise. I've read the Bible about 25 times. I stopped counting a while back, but I read it cover to cover. I read it pretty much daily. We do Bible studies on Saturday because it is absolutely a mind-boggling book. And the precision is amazing. And the thing that drew me into it originally, because I'm a scientifically minded person. I wish I could show you my desk here. I've got electronics strewn over here. I love science. I love the pursuit of knowledge to better mankind. I believe that God intended us to do that. He even placed the earth in a place in the galaxy where we have the best perception of both the galaxy and the outer space. None of that, when you learn the character of God, you realize there are no accidents. Everything he has done with a purpose, and it's way beyond our comprehension. When you're a young Christian and someone like me who tries to comprehend everything, I have a hard time believing that early on. But as I've studied Scripture, and what really pulled me in was the prophecy and the numerology. And I don't like saying numerology. A lot of people think that's cultic thing or something like that.
No,
I'm talking about
numbers.
The Hebrew letters have a numerical value associated with them. And even if you look at the first sentence of Scripture, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. You look at the first words, every word is placed in a position because the numerical value of the word has a meaning. The numerical value of the word has a meaning that actually amplifies the meaning of the word. The fourth word of the Bible is untranslated. It's actually, it's not translated. You won't find it translated in Septuagint. You won't find it translated because it's untranslatable. The fourth word in the Bible, right in Revelation, the first few words are, in the beginning is the first Hebrew word. The second word is created because Hebrew is kind of like Yoda. It's kind of like,
right, yeah.
Sometimes the verbs and nouns are reversed. So in the beginning is the first word. So we're talking about all-encompassing time. Created is the second word. Well, the process of creation is dividing. God divided this from himself. God is not in creation. If you're a pantheist, you think that God is in the creation, but he is not. He's apart from his creation. He is present, but he is not the creation.
Yeah.
The creation is apart from God, and that's the
Comes from
number
that, yeah.
two. The number two has two meanings in biblical numerics. Is it means to divide, but it also means witnesses. They'll make the truth be confirmed in the mouth of two or three witnesses. The third word is Elohim. And interesting, Elohim is plural because in Hebrew, when you do im at the end, that means it's plural. Well, there are three parts to God. And I believe that's intentional. Elohim is the general word for God or gods. So in the beginning, created God. There's your first three words. Now, in the third position, the word God, the number three, is associated with a triune God because he's a three-part God, right?
Yep.
So
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Yep.
Right. In the beginning is one. Created, the dividing of things apart from yourself, is two, because two is dividing. Created, God, Elohim, three. The fourth word of the Bible you will not find in any translation or even Septuagint. It is the Hebrew letter Aleph Tav. And the Aleph Tav is the first and last letter of Hebrew, of modern Hebrew. And what did Christ say in chapter 22 of Revelation and throughout Revelation? He said, I am the first and the last. I am the Alpha and the Omega. Well, isn't it interesting that in the fourth position of Scripture, the Alpha and Omega, the Aleph Tav, the first and last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, appears in the position 4. Why is that significant? Because throughout Scripture, all the books of Scripture, the number 4 is associated with Christ's creative work in the earth. And in fact, how many Gospels are there? There's a reason. I'm talking about precision. Yeah. This is what attracted me to Scripture, is the incredible precision of Scripture. The deeper you look, in fact, you can spend a lifetime and you will not find the end of it. And it's not some emotional thing I'm saying. It's just a fact when you start understanding how deep this goes.
So many layers. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry I got into that. I was actually
going that's good.
The deception about the sorcery that we were talking about, Doug. I think this is what's going to happen. And this is my thought about what's going to happen, because it really says, when you read it and you think about the precision of Scripture, it says, for your industrialist bankers were the powerful men of the earth, for by your drugging and poisoning the nations were deceived. So there's two elements of drugging and poisoning that can cause deception. Element number one is that when people are fatigued, tired, drugged, not having their full cognitive function, they're much easier to deceive. That's one simple way of looking at it. However, there's something else much deeper that I believe is going to happen. They are making people very sick slowly over a period of time, so that now you pretty much can't find somebody's family where somebody doesn't have some kind of chronic illness or disease today.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Okay. One day soon, you are going to have someone walk into the East Gate or walk into the temple and declare that he is God. Right? And I know you talk about this a lot on your show.
Yeah, the Antichrist. Yep.
And I
coming
think
soon.
I think what is going to happen is he's got to do some really convincing things to convince the world that he really has power, that he really is the Christ. Right? And so the Bible says he's going to produce false signs and wonders. I think, and this is just my own thought, but I want people to be aware of it. Give me your feedback. Tell me what you think. One of the things that they're going to do is he's going to raise his hands up and bless the earth. And you might know where I'm going with this. I'm going to get rid of disease. I want people to feel better. I want you to sleep better. I'm going to bless the world and ease your burdens. And then they're going to stop spraying lead, cadmium, arsenic, mercury, and all of the aluminum, barium, strontium,
the biologics,
all the other things, and they'll just do what they do with many of these, because I haven't even gotten into this yet, because all of them are not toxic. Some of them are for deception, and we know that because they don't all smell. It's only the trails from the military jets that have the taste, odor, and symptoms. The commercial jets do not. So
Okay.
we know they already have the infrastructure to produce the trails on a large scale that do not produce odor, taste, or health symptoms. Having that background behind you, and I did a show, an hour-long speech on this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Having that behind you, wouldn't that be an incredibly effective way of convincing the world that he has superpowers when they stop raining this stuff down on people and they suddenly sleep better that night?
Yeah.
They feel better, their diseases start to go in remission, and he's going to get the credit for it. And the reason I will say this is going to be so potent, Doug, is I want to tell you something. Only one time, about 5 years ago, we had the lowest night of spraying. Now, they spray 24/7. This stuff is in the air. It never drops below intensity 8 in my area. And when it's always in the air. Everywhere I've gone, from Florida to Maine, I have family in Florida. I've flown and driven several times over the years, and it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you something. It's probably 6 years ago, for some reason that I don't know, one night the intensity dropped all the way to 4, which is to the point where it has almost no effect on me, Mr. Sensitive, right? Mm-hmm. It was the best night's sleep and the best night that my business partner has had in years. I mean, years. I slept incredibly well. I felt so good. And the next morning was just as mild through the morning. It wasn't until the late morning and afternoon they started hitting us. That was on a Sunday. That was Saturday night. Sunday, I go to church, have a wonderful church here nearby. It was the one and only time that the entire congregation clapped after every song, because this particular congregation is a little bit formal. They're very nice and sweet people, but they don't clap after the music. They were so exuberant socializing with each other that the pastor had to ask people several times, say, okay, we're ready to start, guys. I know you love your fellowship, but it was the most exuberant, uplifting. The whole mood was so different than it has ever been before and ever was after on that one night.
Wow.
Just because of one night of ultra low spraying.
Because they felt good at that time, I guess.
Everybody felt fantastic, and you could tell they were bright, they looked good, didn't have inflammation, didn't have dark circles. It was a complete paradigm change. So what would happen if the Antichrist walked in and they did that, and that whole phenomenon took place worldwide?
Yeah, that's a really, really great point. Very interesting. I had never thought of that before. But yeah, I mean, shutting off that part of the spray program would be pretty easy for someone to do like that, especially if they're already the head of a global empire. And whoever that Antichrist person will be at that level. And a lot of the folks that follow this show know who I think the coming biblical Antichrist is. And I don't know if you have followed this or not, Russ, but I just wanted to show you this. We were talking about numbers earlier. And so this is not my research, of course. This is from an author named Tim Cohen, and he wrote a book many years ago. I think it was released in the 90s, early 90s, possibly 80s, I'm not sure. But it was called The Antichrist in a Cup of Tea. And what it was explaining how Prince Charles at that time fit perfectly into so many different things related to the Antichrist. And, on the surface, you just think, well, King Charles is such a buffoon, he's such a total dork, and nobody could possibly buy that this guy could be the biblical Antichrist. Yeah, he does have power and money, but is that all? And he goes, Tim Cohen, the author, goes to extreme measure on all the interviews that he does to prove over and over again that no, he is actually above and the titular head of the WEF, the World Economic Forum. He's really the person in charge of the UN. He's already been there. He's been there since his investiture in 1969. He's been there the whole time. And he's been making these decisions. He's not the Antichrist quite yet, but he does have the biblical points here that seem to work. And this that we're looking at here says gematria, or gematria, I guess is how it's pronounced, but in English and Hebrew. And you can see here how the way they used to do that was they would use the person's title and then their name and where they're from to determine someone's information, I guess. So Prince Charles of Wales, or Charles, Prince of Wales, adds up to 666 when you look at it in English, but not only in English, but also in Hebrew. So this is the Hebrew version when you were talking about Hebrew and how it's, you can ascribe numbers to it. Well, the key is over here. You've got the alphabet here, and then the Hebrew version down here. And then, so Charles, Prince of Wales, or Prince Charles of Wales adds up to 666. So that identifies, according to what Tim Cohen and others have researched going way back to the late 80s, early 90s, that it fits perfectly. And it's not only that, but also this. This is his coat of, what's it called? Coat of arms. But this is described here in Revelation, essentially. Revelation 13:2, and the beast that I saw resembled a leopard, but his feet were like those of a bear, and his mouth was like that of a lion. And again, looking back at this, that's exactly what we're seeing here. And it goes even further. He goes into a lot of detail in all of his interviews and things like that. I think he's really found the right person here. And yeah, he's getting old. He's getting up there, and a lot of people have said, well, he's not gonna live very much longer. He's got cancer and all these things. And notice the whole cancer thing has gone away. They're not really talking about that anymore, or they're saying that he's sort of past that now. So, there are several things that could happen next. There could be an attempt on the man's life. There are different things that could transpire, but to me, it kind of all fits together and makes a lot of sense. And that's the whole purpose, really, of the Diamond Report, what this show is all about, breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. And I personally think we have been living in the end times for quite some time. Technically, from 2021 to now, and then with Jesus returning in 2028. And again, that's not my information. That's information that I've come across through the different projects and different things that I've worked on. We've talked about it a lot on this show, and I'll just show this timeline real quick, just to kind of bring people's memory back to it a little bit. But there are some things that I have put together in a series called Take It to the Lord in Prayer, and it's offered completely for free on YouTube and Rumble and other places. And Jesus Returns, Feast of Trumpets, September 2028. That all comes from 2028end.com, and I won't get into all that tonight, but suffice it to say, I personally have been, since I realized kind of what's going on in about late 2018, put this timeline together in 2019, I've been following really closely what's going on. And to me, it makes a lot of sense that we're there. I personally think that because 1,000 years is as one day, as a day is of 1,000 years, like the scripture says, that we have been in the end times for the last 2,000 years since Jesus' resurrection. And it's interesting to talk about his resurrection this weekend. So I personally think we've been in the end times, because if you look at the last 2,000 years, if 1,000 years is as one day in heaven and one day is as 1,000 years, then it's only been 2 days since his resurrection. So I think personally we have been in the end times since that period of time, if that makes sense. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, no, I hear exactly what you're saying. I think the Prince Charles thing is very interesting. Mm-hmm. Revelation 13 says that you will not be able to buy or sell unless you have his name, the number, his mark, his name, or the number of his name on your right hand or forehead. When you look back, there's been some ancient manuscripts that actually show what that symbol looks like, the 666 symbol. They calculate it into 666. There's some lesser, maybe credible sources that convert that and say it really should be 616.
I've seen that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also another line of thought that's very interesting about that. I guess two things I'll bring up is that the symbolism, you've got the cross, you've got what looks like an X, you've got the little curly Q letter, And then you've got the other symbol that when you combine them together, they basically say Allah. And there's a very interesting, in order to make it do that in all, from the manuscript that they actually have, the ancient manuscript, you actually have to take the middle letter, it's laying on its back. If you stand it up, it literally is the name of Allah.
Allah,
it's like the thing you see on the flags and things.
And he's been accused of being a Muslim, by the way. Charles has.
Has he? Mm-hmm. Really? Okay.
Yeah, and there's pictures of him in a tunic and doing the prayer and everything. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's
maybe he's the Mahdi in addition to the possible, Moshiach that the Jews are watching for. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting that there's a couple things. You've got there's a guy named Chuck Missler who's a really good Bible teacher who actually did a piece on this, where he shows the manuscripts and shows maybe a better interpretation, a better translation of that verse in Revelation, and it seems like I'm not saying that it's saying that the Muslim is the Antichrist, but just saying that it depicts that you have to have the mark of Allah on your hand is what he was saying as a possibility. He's not dogmatic about it saying it, but it looks like if you flip that one letter on its side, it literally says the mark of Allah. The name of Allah has to be on your right hand or forehead. And it's like, that is very interesting based on current world events. The other thing that's very interesting that people don't think about is that when you look at the etymology of the word mark, if you have a Strong's Concordance, I've got an old concordance over here. The new ones are a little bit corrupt. Some of the newer ones, I've got one from like 30 years ago. You get an old concordance and you'll see that the etymology or the history of the word mark, one of the meanings of its derivation means a fence or to look like a fence. Well, it's interesting that that first of all, a lot of people were saying for a long time that they thought the mark might be an RFID chip. And I said, I don't think that's going to catch on generally because it causes cancer. It's expensive. It's unreliable. It can be fraud. It's very prone to fraud.
Yeah, as my good friend Anthony Patch would say, that is old technology.
Yeah,
based on the nanoparticles and what can be done with them once they're in the body.
Well, yeah. I mean, one thing that I find with the globalists is what they like to do is they like to, and they're going to be very rushed. I mean, things are accelerating, and they're going to run out. They're kind of running out of time. People are waking up. The whole sentiment of the world is changing very rapidly, and so they're going to be more and more rushed. And the Bible makes reference to Satan knowing his time is short. Satan has a hierarchy that works beneath him. We all know about that. And the people on this side who are working actually communicate with the hierarchy. I've listened to whistleblowers since the 80s. That's one of my favorite things to do is listen to these whistleblowers, and they describe how things work and how this all works together. And the interesting thing is that the globalists like to use technology. They want it to be reliable. They're going to be rushed. And one thing that would be very reliable would be a barcode. And I know a lot of people have kind of torn that idea apart, said, no, it can't be this and can't be that because of that and this. But it's like, you know what? The machines that actually print barcodes on your hand that you pass your hand under have been manufactured and tested. The barcode is not visible. And the interesting thing about barcodes, and again, being an electronics guy, I know about this, is that if the barcode is stretched or you age or your hand's not in the right position or it's crooked, it doesn't matter. Because the barcode has what are called synchronization bands, one on each end and in the middle. And what it does is when that laser goes and scans it, the reflected light gets reflected back into a sensor, and it reads, it knows the speed of the laser moving, and then it looks at the timing of the light that's being reflected, and it can actually read that as essentially a digit, because the thickness of the lines and the spaces represent digits. Well, the interesting thing is the synchronization bands look very similar to the number 6. And the guy who actually made the barcode, who designed it, was actually interviewed, and he said, well, it's not the letter. He's not the number 6. So, he says that's not a 6. It's just they chose that for the synchronization bands, so they can synchronize in case it's stretched, or it's even crooked, the computer that's reading it can actually calculate and know, it can read it. It's very reliable is the bottom line. And it's very cheap technology. It lasts. It's very hard to make it into a fraud, because if you mess with it, it's going to then produce an error. So that's one thing. I'm not dogmatic at all about it. I'm just thinking that it's a possibility that the barcode could be what's actually used as the mark. And it's interesting that the etymology of the word mark comes from fence. And what does a picket fence look like? An old fence. It's just a bunch of pieces of slats of wood put this way. So
yeah, really interesting.
Interesting,
don't know. It is. And you've probably seen some of the studies where they're talking about nanoparticles and luciferase and all of that stuff being in the body, and how, it can be scanned with infrared light and emit the signal and all that kind of stuff, the mark. So, people are looking at it that way too, because that can be injected, taken from the VAXX or anything else that's injected like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and they have a lot of technology to draw from, and we might even find that it's a combination of things.
Yeah, they could be. Mm-hmm. There's some folks in the chat talking about some different options as well. So yeah, I mean, who knows exactly? But I do think that we're basically there. It's just a matter of, a few things falling into place yet. But the technology has been developed. It's a matter of it all being deployed. And then that one world government. I don't think we get to the one world government until there's some sort of nuclear exchange. And look what we're doing with Iran, and look what Trump's talking about doing, basically using nukes. So, I mean, I feel like we're there now. So I don't know what your thoughts are on all that. We don't really talk about politics much, but I'd like to hear what you think about all that, and just where you think we might be in that Revelation timeline.
I think that there's a couple interesting things. Is that the whole idea of nukes comes from, I believe, if maybe you're referring to the same thing, from the idea that when there is an attack in the East, in the Middle East, that they don't pick up the bodies. I don't know if this is what you're referring to, is that they actually have a crew that goes through. The bodies that are killed by this are actually marked first, and then they have a special crew that comes. This is all right from Scripture, where then there's a team that comes afterwards. And so it actually sounds like another technology statement. We're talking about probably radiation, which would lend some credibility to the idea of that. There's other statements talking about Babylon, oh Babylon, that great city has fallen. Mm-hmm. How all the merchants of the earth cried and wailed because of because they trade and they were made rich by their trade, by their wares. In Mystery Babylon, and this is something I've actually began studying in the last 10 or 15 years, is the religion of these people, because I love getting in people's heads and understanding why are you doing what you're doing. And so I thought, well, what more interesting subject to get in the heads of these people and figure out why are they doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And Mystery Babylon, a lot of people may not realize this, but Mystery Babylon is what they actually call their religion. They call it either mystery, or they actually call it the mysteries is the more common phrase, but it's the mysteries from Babylon. It's the Babylonian mysteries, or the mystery schools. And that's their own terms. Those are their own terms.
Yeah, that's what
if
they
you
use.
Look and you look at Revelation, it's called Mystery Babylon. Mm-hmm. And so this is referring to the religion of the belief system, which is really Luciferianism. This is the worship of the beast, and and it's funny, if you zoom out and you look at the big picture, if people have, and I don't hear people talking about this, and it's wild because it is the 10,000 foot picture, is that what we're watching is in Isaiah, God talks about Lucifer and says, the iniquity was found in thee. You were the creme de la creme, so to speak. You were the highest one in either court. You were magnificent, and there was nothing as beautiful as you. And until iniquity was found in you, because Lucifer said he wanted to put his, and in the same verse, and Isaiah talks about he wanted to have his throne in the north. He wanted the worship. He wants the throne. He wants to be in the place of God, right?
Yeah.
So all of world history, this is what we're watching. Like, what is life? What were you born into? And what I tell people that I'm close enough to talk to about this is that you were born into a war. And it's not like God is struggling, because God won't struggle. He could, speak this whole thing out of existence, but he's allowing it to play out for a reason. And what the people of the elites are trying to do, because people have all these theories about what are they trying to do? What is the end goal? The end goal is to serve Lucifer. The end goal is to get the whole world to worship Lucifer. And if you can look back in Isaiah, I don't remember the verse. I'm horrible at memorizing verses with Mercury. I used to have this incredible memory where I could pull this stuff up, and then now with Mercury exposure, it just wipes out my memory of
it's hard. Yeah.
Times, dates, and places. I remember concepts, but I have to go look things up again. But it does that to your nerves. It messes with your sheathing and your tubulin and actin. It breaks your nervous system down. But anyway, what's very interesting is that's what we're born into. We're born into the war where Lucifer has made a deal with all these people, has given them wine, women, and song, riches, fame, but in return, they have to do what they're told to do. And the whole idea is to bring the whole world into worship of Lucifer. And if you look at the world, that's exactly what they're doing. And all of your movie stars that you've watched and the people you loved and thought were so great, you come to learn, I was telling people this decades ago, you're going to find out these are people who are against you, who have done horrific things, who don't care about you, who look at you as a very lowly little muggle, and and the public has to their own demise fed the system, not realizing what they're feeding, but anyway,
and I would just point people to, you're the one that first told me about this YouTube channel. It's a wonderful YouTube channel, I think, called The Fuel Project, and I've been talking about them since I put my Revelation timeline with dates together way back when in 2019. But the Fuel Project has an excellent video series on the book of Revelation. And in fact, I had watched that based on your recommendation years ago when we talked on the phone to go watch the Know Your Enemy series, which I think you have on your website, right? Know Your Enemy. And that's about Mystery Babylon as well. So it's a really good starting point. And I think when I watched Know Your Enemy, I then found the Revelation series and watched that as well, and just really got a lot out of it personally. I think it was really good information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the Fuel Project. I have it on the Orbis Vitae website. If people go to Orbis Vitae, they'll actually can see right from the home page. They'll scroll down the home page and you'll see a title called Know Your Enemy. And there's like a little emblem there that says fuel with a flame. And if you click on that, there we go. Here's the Orbis Vitae website. This is the home page. If you just scroll down, you'll see Know Your Enemy. Just click on this, and we actually have all 77 of the videos here.
It's great.
From the Fuel Project, from the series. And it's a really great series for people who want to really get the big picture and understand. It takes a little while to go through, but I believe Christians, the reason it's called Know Your Enemy is because you as a Christian are called to know your enemy. Yeah. Let's not be ignorant of the wiles of the devil,
Yeah, and there are subchapters here of like Catholics and things like that. That's not our enemy, but they want to explain in this series where Catholicism comes from and how that sort of refers back to the big enemy, which is of course Satan.
So. Right, and I just split the screen here. And right here you'll see whoops, I hit the wrong thing here.
I know, I've done that. Hit that little button. Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Okay, see this where it says the mysteries? That's what I was just talking about.
Yeah.
This is what, like a lot of these people, I know a lot of people who are into fighting chemtrails, right?
Yeah.
But they love Manly P. Hall.
Oh, right, yeah.
Or Jordan Maxwell. Good. And I'm just like, okay, let's talk about Manly P. Hall and Jordan These people are in the center of the mysteries. They are promoting the very religious system that is Luciferianism that they sometimes claim, or that you people think that they are against. But they're not. Yeah. They're promoting this.
You got to watch where you get your information, folks. That's what we're saying.
Which is why you need to know your enemy, because if knowing your enemy, like watching a series like this, I highly recommend it, will help you be able to spot trouble and see these warning signs. It's very, very helpful for that.
Yeah, it is really good. It's very in depth. It goes on. It could be watched in a few days, especially if you just take it bit by bit, because I think each chapter is a separate video, right? It's not overwhelming. It's not like one 10-hour video or something. It's just a lot of little videos, short ones.
Yeah, it's 77 videos, and they range from most of them are 5 to 12 minutes. This was particularly long, but
yeah, that one's 13. Yeah, but you can get through it in a relatively short amount of time, especially if you space it out and just do a few a day or something. Give you time to absorb it a little bit, but it's really good information. Know Your Enemy was the first thing I was exposed to on this channel as far as the Fuel Project goes, and then found the Revelation series as well. And I thought it was really, really well done.
I would also recommend we have on Oberst Vitae another series, great for people if you want people learn the Bible who are scientifically minded.
Oh wow,
Chuck Missler. Yeah, and technology in the Bible. This is fantastic.
Chuck's great. Yeah, he's got some good information out there. Yep.
Yeah, he really is. So 2 great series for people who are new. I would recommend you send them here, and you can watch the whole series here. If you really want to go a little more hardcore with your learning, we also have the Mystery Babylon series from William Cooper.
Oh yeah.
This is one of the most famous broadcasts in history. And this is actually a 42-part series. It's not as refined as the Fuel Project, but it gets hard. It gets into like the nitty-gritty of what is going on and how bad it is and what these people are doing. So it's a little rougher to listen to. Well, the Fuel Project I don't see as rough at all, really. It's actually very good education. This gets a little, but I still recommend it if you're inclined and you really want to know the enemy, and I hope you do. This gets deep into some of this stuff.
Bill Cooper really knew his stuff. I think he really could go deep on this thing, on everything, really.
Yeah, you can see some of the titles here, and again, there's Mystery Babylon once again.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's the title of this whole series is Mystery Babylon.
Wow.
So
I'll have to watch that. I haven't seen that series.
Yeah, this is part of, a lot of people don't realize this about, like the Statue of Liberty. Where did it really come from?
Yeah.
The history of America. I'm not anti-American at all. I mean, America is about the people, and this country has done more to evangelize the world than any country in history, which is a beautiful thing. So I don't say things like this as anti-nation or anything like that.
No, I know. There are a lot of Luciferians, though, that started this country, it seemed like. So
well, there are.
At least, help put these things into place. Just look at the way Washington, D.C. is laid out, for instance.
Exactly. And he gets into a lot of this stuff where you'll see. But what's interesting is you've got, like in part 6 here, he has this thing called Lord Maitreya. Who is, have you heard of Maitreya? Are you familiar with him?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is Maitreya is basically people don't realize this, but Maitreya is actually basically funded by the Rockefeller family. And in fact, the website that promotes Maitreya, and this is an antichrist. He's not the antichrist, but he is an antichrist. And he's teaching very, mystical things that are really anti-Christian at the core. I can't remember the name of it. It's like Share International or something was his website.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look into it, that website is actually funded by the Rockefeller Foundation.
Is that Theosophy? Is that part of that?
Yes.
Yeah, Theosophy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Theosophy is Luciferianism. That's where Helena Blavatsky.
Yeah.
And Besant.
And they were waiting for Maitreya to come, right? Something like that.
Well, yeah, they did a lot of writings that were channeled. They did channeling.
Okay. Yeah.
And it all promoted Luciferianism and saying Christ really didn't rise and it didn't go the way that they said.
Yeah.
And it's all written in very eloquent language. And that eloquent language makes you feel like it's really smart. But really, when you get past the emotion, which is really important for people to do, and you listen to what they're actually saying, it's not smart. And there's nothing backing it up. It's just a bunch of empty words. It's very much like evolution. I've always been very frustrated about how people think that, like, it's like evolution, since they sell it the same way. And this is very important for people to overcome their emotions, is that I know a lot of people historically, I know a lot of people online will just say it's a fact, it's been proven, look at the science, look at all the science. And it's like, I've read the science. Go read it. We read research for herbs and nutritional sciences and clinical studies. So go muddle through some of this stuff, and they will dazzle you with big words. They will talk about the zygote. They will talk about the reproductive processes of cells and the relationship between this and that, and the DNA and the segments and the genome segments and the all of this. But
they're hypnotizing you, it sounds like.
They use big words, and to a person who is emotionally driven, to a person who uses their emotions to discern, which is not what emotions are for. Your mind is for discerning. The spirit is for discerning.
Yeah.
Your emotions are not for that purpose. But we have a world today that is told to follow their heart.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Follow your heart. Follow your heart. Well, why is that what media tells you to do? Why is that the mantra? Because the heart is corrupt. The heart is not a discerner of truth.
Yeah.
So you can read these studies to the people who have been so conditioned to follow their heart. They'll be bedazzled by it. And they'll go, oh, this is so great. This is science. Look at that. It proves it. And I'm like, whoa. Step back and tell me what that actually said. All it said is that this looks like this, and this looks like this. It reminds me, it's not saying anything. It's not really drawing any good conclusions. It's just using a bunch of high language. And they go on and on with this stuff. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It sounds like a really easy way to be lied to, and like it.
It's like Richard Dawkins, was it Richard Dawkins? Who was he's the evolutionist who would go to debates. He would have debates at college campuses, and he was promoting evolution. It's like this. This was a classical moment. Is somebody came up the microphone and asked him a question about what he thought of God, or something like this, or why he doesn't believe God plays a role in this, or some question related to this. He spoke for like somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes, and I sat there and listened to the whole thing. I'm listening. Okay, what is he going to say about this? And he used big words, and he used big concepts and ideas and big swelling, grandiose allusions and metaphors. And and all the people are like, oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Wow. And I'm like, just listen to what he said. Do you know what the conclusion is of what he actually said? Break it down, get all the emotion out of the way. What did he actually just say? He literally said, I believe God doesn't exist because he is more complicated. And the more complicated something is, the less likely it is that it evolved.
Okay.
That's what he said. It's more complicated, so it's less likely to exist. And I'm just like, that is your conclusion after 15 or 5 minutes of swelling. It's just, you have to listen with your mind and break down and get past the emotion. And that's you see a lot of that.
That's amazing. Yeah. I didn't know about that. That's crazy. Wow. We've got an interesting question here. What do you think about this? Did Artemis really go around the moon, or will it really be going around the moon? I don't know if it's supposed to have happened yet.
Okay, here's the question. This goes right along with the idea of emotions. You have to never underestimate how far your opponent will go to deceive you. The moment you think they wouldn't go that far, and this is the most common reply I get from people who I'm saying, this thing that you're seeing on the news isn't true. They wouldn't go that far. Oh, no. You do not know the minds and the goals and the purposes of these people who are doing this.
Yeah, really.
Okay?
They will go that far.
They will go that far.
And
they
further.
will go so far to deceive you. Even through the silliest hoops will they jump, but they will go very far. And I'm saying that to say this. It does not matter how many pieces of evidence, how many pictures, photographs, how many witnesses you have saying that somebody has left the Van Allen radiation belts of the Earth.
Right.
The only people we know who have approached the Van Allen radiation belts during the early days, it might have been the Mercury program. Remember, I was into this. Gemini, I loved the Gemini program. I followed the Mercury program when I was a kid. Was really into all this stuff. When they even started to approach the encroaching of the Van Allen radiation belts around the Earth, they started to have problems with vision where they started seeing shooting stars because of the cosmic radiation that goes right through the metal on their spaceship into their heads, into their retinas, and start triggering the rods and cones in the back of their eyes. So let's ask this question to NASA. And this is just a logical question.
Yeah.
And everybody, it doesn't matter how strongly you feel, because the truth doesn't care about your emotions. The truth is the truth, regardless of how we feel about it. How are those people who are flying outside the Van Allen belts protecting themselves from the lethal amounts of solar radiation, nuclear radiation, that is being shot at them, that goes right through the metal? Do they have 6 inches of lead protecting them around that craft? Is there some kind of exotic technology that is expelling the high-speed, nuclear?
Yeah.
Tell us, how are you doing this? Will you please reveal this incredible technology to us so that we could save so much life on Earth by employing that here whenever there's a catastrophe?
Yeah, or are they just lying to us about even getting that far? Could they only achieve low Earth orbit and just, are they just telling us a huge lie about that? I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can't have both be true. It's like either you have this technology or you're not making this flight. You have to have some kind of technology to protect them from nuclear radiation with what appears to be little space chutes with mylar and plastic and thin metal that is known not to, lightweight metal, that has to be able to be launchable by your rocket. So tell us, how are you pulling this off? Tell the world.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Here's a interesting quote: "People will generally accept facts as truth only if the facts agree with what they already believe." Andy Rooney.
Well, yeah, that's
not wrong.
That's a very good point. It's very hard to convince people that they're wrong.
Yeah,
yeah.
Some good Mark Twain quotes on that too, I think.
Yeah, well, was it Rockefeller who said that? He actually said, or was it Zbigniew Brzezinski, or it was Henry Kissinger, I think. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Henry Kissinger, he said it's easier to kill 1 million people than to convince them that they're wrong or change their minds.
Yeah.
Something along that line.
That was old Zbigniew. That was who said that, yeah.
Was it?
Brzezinski, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
because Dane quotes that all the time, so that's why I remember it.
Oh, okay.
It is.
Okay. And that's a sad thing, because you know what? If we have pride, it makes us very resistant to change or to learning. When I was a kid, when I was young, I used to say pride is the force that keeps the truth from passing between people. And I find that the most knowledgeable people in the world and that I've met are the people who stay humble. You always realize how little you actually know in comparison to everything, and always know that you can be wrong, but you can still draw pretty good conclusions, based on the information you have, and you have to do that. But it's the pride. And of course, what does the world convince you to do? Not only follow your heart, which keeps you in a childlike, easily controllable state, because children are easily deceived because they follow their emotions. If you're a logical person, you're very hard to deceive. So the world convinces you follow your heart, but what else did they tell you to do? Right? They tell you, what was I just saying?
Follow your heart. That does seem to be an overarching theme these days. Yep.
Right, but the other thing is pride. That was what I was going to say. Is that how about all of the whole entertainment industry? You are all of it. You're this. You're that. You can do anything. They build up people's pride, and in the art of war, what does Sun Tzu says? If you want to overcome an opponent, what do? You puff him up. You make him feel invincible. And then he becomes completely vulnerable.
Yeah.
But
you've got entire generations of the I this and the I that, and they're doing selfies all day long, and it's all about me, me, me. And it's pretty easy to deceive people like that, seems to me.
And I find that very fascinating because I love, psychology and getting into people's minds and understanding what makes them tick. And that's honestly, Doug, every single television show that I don't watch much TV, but my business partner does, and I kind of do programming and half watch with her. The programming and the propaganda is in everything. If you don't know the real how the elites of the world, I hate calling them elites, but the power brokers really work, you won't see it. But if you understand their agenda and their methods, it's right in front of you. Every single television you show, you can't watch an episode. I mean, I haven't watched all TV. I don't watch that much, but everything that I've ever seen, like for the last 10 years, pretty much everything has at least something in it. And it's almost like you cannot even get your show published unless you're going along with the program. You know what I mean? You won't get the contract. You won't get renewed.
Yeah. Which is why they call them programs, probably.
I don't know. What do you think about all that? What?
No, I think that's exactly right. Yeah, that's why they call them programming, television programming. They're programming you. That's the whole thing.
It's shocking. I even saw, there's a old show. Well, I shouldn't say old. I guess it's kind of old. But do you remember House? He was a doctor. He was a diagnostician.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a real. It was pretty sophisticated show. It was probably more entertaining. It was a pretty big hit for years. It was renewed for many seasons. But I remember during the Obama, and this is just one example of endless. I actually have a list. I should show you my list. I keep a list of propaganda I see if it's major, and I've accrued a huge list of propaganda shows. Just one example is that when Obama was running for office, right at the same time, in an episode, he says, "Vote for change." And in the same episode, and I mean, just out of the blue, like didn't fit, it like stuck out of the script, but they tried to work it in the script. But he said, "Vote for change." Why is that significant? Because that was his motto. That was Obama's motto, right? And then there's a shot of somebody in a restroom.
Yeah. So vote Obama.
Right, and there's a bumper sticker in the back you can just kind of make it out. You can read it, but they don't pay attention to it too much. But you can see it. It said, "Vote for change." And it's right in the shot. And it's kind of like, what are the chances that right during this time in history, they're going to have, it's kind of like they had subconscious messages in Back to the Future. Do you know that they had, do you remember when the older, not Marty McFly, his friend was approaching the girl and he says, "You are my density." I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah. His dad. Yeah.
His dad, that's right. His dad was in the...
I've seen it many, many times.
I've seen it many times, too. He walked up, he's going in the bar.
George
McFly, yeah. He's walking up, and he goes up to Ali Sheedy, I guess her name was, or if I ever, the actress right. No, it's not. Is it Ali Sheedy?
Yeah.
Whatever. Mm-hmm. And he says, "You are my density."
No.
He walked up and he goes,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember that line.
If you listen very carefully, as he walks up right after he says his first line to her, you hear in the background, "Cherry Coke." Do you know that was the time that Coca-Cola was launching Cherry Coke? And they put that message in there. There was whatever, I won't go into. There are so many I've seen many subconscious messages. Microsoft has subconscious messages that they've run, but the programming they're putting in the shows is absolutely amazing. It's amazing. So much going on in the world, Doug. So much.
Yeah, it really is crazy.
We're living in interesting times, let me tell you.
We sure are. Well, what are your thoughts on, before we leave tonight, what are your thoughts on AI, everything going on with AI?
I think AI is the fall guy. I think what they're doing
Okay.
is they're destroying the economy, and they're really accelerating the destruction of the economy. They want to destroy the United States. We've known that, Albert Pike talked about that. He's the kind of the reformer of modern masonry, and other people talked about the West. The whole reason the West was set up the way it was, and the whole the reason for America and all that stuff. I'm just so glad it was so evangelistic. But AI is the fall guy. AI is going to be the reason the nukes get launched, or the reason the next war starts. It's going to be the reason the grid goes out. They need someone to blame it on. And I think that's going to, a big part of what they're going to use AI for is going to be that, the silent character that they can just say, oh, it's the computer's fault. It's the computer's fault, while they do all these things on purpose. I think that's a big part of it, besides destroying the information economy. So,
Very interesting. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. I mean, I know a lot of people that say, "Oh, AI is of the devil. It's completely demonic. Don't ever use it." And I don't know. It does kind of make sense. Well, I see that side of it, but it does kind of make sense that it could be used as a fall guy too. Definitely, especially if there are any nukes involved anytime soon.
Do you remember War Games, the movie with Matthew Broderick?
Oh yeah.
Well, think about what happened. First of all, I realized that they program people 10, 20 years in advance, sometimes longer, because that generation will see movies, and then they'll grow up and become the voters and become the policy. They don't set the policy because the power brokers do that, but they at least agree with the policy because they've been preconditioned to do that. That happened with Trump. They put Trump on television 10 years, in that way you knew, okay, he's going to play a big role because of the way that they promoted him. That's a whole discussion itself. But in War Games, what was the actual gist of the entire movie? The computer was put in control of the whole nuclear arsenal, right? And it almost started World War III, but then it learned just quick enough to avert World War III, but it almost did it. But that plants the message in people's minds that danger exists. That danger exists, that if you put AI in control of something powerful, that things could go south very quickly. And so I do think AI is going to be the fall guy for so many things, and they're just going to blame the grid outages and all kinds of things. It's just going to be another reason that they're going to have more surveillance, more controls, more restrictions on what resources humans can use. I think that's going to play a big part of it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Well, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we call it a night? It's getting kind of late where you are, 12:40, I think. So anything else you want to bring up and discuss?
Well, I could talk all night on this stuff, but I would just say to people that the spraying is real. The nations are all working together. I know they, in the book 1984, they pushed the idea that there were three nations that were constantly at war with each other, and that fed the economy and yada, yada. That was all part of the idea. That model is not far from what they are actually doing. And it's not about feeding the economy for the good of the people. It's about actually putting money in the pocket of the people who own the military contractors, because war is their greatest source of income, or one of their greatest sources of income. Because with every one of those $1 million bombs that drop, or those, $1 million missiles they fire, well, somebody's making that, and whoever makes that is getting big contracts, and whoever's getting those big contracts is putting millions of dollars in their pocket. So war is very, very profitable. So I would just say that even though they promote this idea that all the nations are not working together, you have to keep in mind that in order to ever achieve the goal of having central government, they have to have all the governments of the world working together, because the governments of the world would never give up their sovereignty if they had sovereignty to another governing authority. That would go against the governed authorities themselves. I hate calling them authorities, but the governors themselves, and it would go against the will of the people of that country. No country would do that. So they knew that what they had to do is they had to conquer all the countries from within. Soviet Union, China, India, all the countries. They did it. over the past 200 years, while they were entertaining the world with the entertainment industry, they were very, very busy taking over regimes, taking over countries, putting their people in power, and so on and so forth. So that the Soviet Union and China are working with the United States to keep the facade of enemies, so that they could keep tensions, they could keep fear high, and you'll see how it all works together. And they also needed the countries working together so that they could have the fear of war as one of the biggest sources of fear to convince the world that we need a new world order. Because think of the fear that will be invoked if the Soviet Union or China launched some missiles and took out a few U.S. cities. Think about the incredible fear that would invoke in the public. They would say, someone help us, someone bring peace, because you don't know when a missile is going to land on your city next and you're going to be vaporized. So, but they could never do that without the full cooperation of these countries. And so throughout the last 200 years and longer, they have been conquering, whether it was the Bolsheviks revolution or the other things. The people who control the world now and control all the countries of the world have been very, very busy sequestering all the countries together so that they could come to this time, putting their Luciferians in power so that they could make Isaiah, the prophecy in Isaiah, or at least the prophecy that were talked about of what Lucifer's dream was, come true, to pay him back for all of the wine, women, and song and money that they've been given by their rain men. They call them rain men a lot of times, whether it's the fifth member of the band AC/DC, who's got the ones who write them songs, whether Tesla, a lot of people don't realize that Tesla said that he had a being that hovered over his head at night that gave him wisdom. All these people, the actors and actresses who say that they meditate and they invite in the spirits to make them better actors and actresses, it goes on and on and on. Plato, Aristotle, this has been going on since Babylon. And this is just all of the horrible things about trafficking. I'll watch what words I say, but trafficking and all the horrific things that we're now learning are taking place. This stuff goes all the way back to Babylon. So even though people had a hard time believing it in the beginning, it's like this stuff has gone on throughout the dynasties of the world. And so God comes in judgment, and when he judges severely, the host of heaven and the people of earth will know that he is justified in bringing such incredible judgment to the people of the earth who have done these unspeakable things to other human beings and who are now destroying the earth, which is another technology statement. God said, I will destroy those who destroy the earth. Well, you don't destroy the earth on horseback with bows and arrows. You destroy it with tankers full of nanoparticles. So we are living in the most interesting times in history. We are near the pinnacle of history. Yeah. And I would just encourage people, if you're not a believer, study scripture. I've learned this over the last 30 years of my life, that it's an incredible book. Do not listen to mainstream media, and do not listen to what other people say on social media who say, oh, it's been rewritten by these people, and it's been written by the Masons, or it's been corrupted by these people. The precision in the original language and even in the Septuagint is mind-boggling. And this is coming from someone who was very skeptical in the beginning, because I was very scientific and logical minded. And now I've just said, okay, this stuff will blow your mind. So study it, listen to Chuck Missler, listen to Michael Heiser, other people who are scholars in this, and do your due diligence. And if you do it logically and you're willing to learn truth despite yourself, and you put truth above yourself, because there's two types of people in the world. I divide everybody into two groups. There's people who put their emotions above the truth, and there are people who put truth above their emotions. If you put emotions above the truth, then you are a ready and ripened child of the New World Order. That's exactly what they want. But if you put truth above your emotions, and you realize that the truth is higher than I, that I need to humble myself to the truth, not make the truth humble itself to me, but yet make myself humble myself to the truth, then you are ripe and ready to learn what Scripture really says about the person who made some really big claims and actually had the stuff to back it up. Prophetically, through gematria, through prophecy, he fulfilled hundreds of prophecies that were much older than him. It was physically impossible that these things could have happened by coincidence. So anyone who's listening who hasn't come to that point in their life yet, time is short. I know people have said time is short for a long time, but it really is now. So now's the time to start making some decisions. That's what I would say. And I appreciate you having me on tonight, Doug. I know I've talked a lot. I'm very excited about these subjects because I want people to know what's going on. So thanks for being so patient with I'm not always this wordy, but tonight I was very talkative. So thank you so much.
No problem at all. I'm glad you were, because we had lots to talk about, and we'll have you back if you want to come back, and we can discuss things further. But yeah, I mean, just, as you were saying there, kind of wrapping up, it's really about Jesus. I mean, once you really start looking into this stuff and realizing that the Bible is 100%, more than 100% real and truthful, and Jesus fulfills that Scripture. He comes in human form to do that. And once you realize that and realize what he went through in the torturous moments before his death, it just makes perfect sense. And then there's so much more to the story with some of the things that were discovered later on that Ron Wyatt did and put other pieces of the puzzle together. It's just really amazing, and that God is there from the beginning to the end. He sees everything that happens, and he's orchestrated every single thing that happens. We were talking about numbers earlier, and just numbers in general. That's how I often experience God, is just with different numbers. And I've talked about it on the show before and won't go into it now necessarily, but it does kind of make sense, and you can start to see God in different ways, the way you live your life. And so anyway, I just wanted to thank you so much, Russ, for being here tonight, and really enjoyed our conversation. Hopefully everyone else out there who were listening live did as well. And thank you guys for being here and for your great comments tonight. We didn't post nearly all of them. We had tons and tons of them on the live stream, but those will stay up, and I'll probably do an edited, slightly shortened version of this show and re-upload it to the various platforms, hopefully at some point tomorrow, maybe tomorrow night. And this will go out on the Substack as well, and we'll send some stuff to Russ so he can put it out on his Substack if he wants to too. So that said, we'll go ahead and wrap it up and call it a night for tonight. And we will plan to get together again the next Diamond Report Live, which will just be back to the regular news program. The news show that we do will be next Sunday at 9 p.m. Central Time. It will be the starting time. That's the 12th. So April the 12th. We will just be passing the 11th is the 10-year anniversary of the major car accident that I was in. So my family and I will be not really celebrating, but talking about that, I'm sure, at some point this week. And it's hard to believe it's been 10 years. But God saved me for a reason, and I know he has saved you multiple times, it sounds like, from the heart attacks and whatever else. So, yeah, I mean, he's got plans for all of us, is my point. Not just for me and you, but for all of us. And we're all here for a reason, and we're all put here at this time for a specific reason, and it's up to us to talk to God and to find out what those things are, whatever that might be. So blessings to you guys, and hope you all got something out of this show tonight. And again, we will do this again real soon, and thanks again to Russ, and love you, man, and I will talk to you guys again real soon.